It is the world that has been pulled over your eyes to blind you from the truth.
It's you liberals who have lifted them up, Howard.
Paul, you conservatives make a mistake. You can't afford to strangle hope in people. Without hope, people become dangerous.
No, Howard. You liberals have let them invade our society. You give them jobs, political jobs.
Paul, you missed the point. It's only the smart ones we move up.
That makes it even worse.
No, we have to move them up. If we leave a smart one in the ghetto, he might develop into a leader against us. But if we raise him up into white society, we neutralize him.
It really boils down to our ability to accept. We don't need pessimism.
What he means by pessimism is resistance. And that's what COINTELPRO was all about, stopping the resistance.
I know you're out there. I can feel you now. I know that you're afraid. You're afraid of us. You're afraid of change.
We hide it in plain sight. One of Plato's greatest works was the allegory of the cave. I feel in order to understand the political matrix, we need only to look into this allegory. We first have to open our minds to the possibility everything is not as it seems. That things we've always known to be truth may be lies. For if we can't perceive the lies we've ingested, we can't see the bars on our mental conditioning. For that is how you walk out of the cave and see the political matrix. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Political Matrix. I am your host, Marcus Young Morpheus Cage, here with my colleague, Miss Voodoo herself, Lady Teal, and we have a special guest. Welcome to the stage, Mariah.
Hello, Marcus and Teal. Yes, hello. Thank you for having me.
Make sure to say hello to the people, and let them know a little bit about yourself before we get started.
I'm Mariah, and I live in Southwest Colorado. I'm a co-host of Poppy's Field Project podcast. I'm part of the AM Wake Up, channel and team. And we've had that podcast for about 4 or 5 years, keeping it a little bit on the DL because of what we talk about. We talk a lot about occult knowledge, astrology, ancient human history, herbalism, and everything to do with like connecting all the dots. And so I've been watching Marcus for a long time. I know Teal personally. Like, this is a great team already, and I just like my brother died 10 years ago, and me and him are always about looking into what was really going on, because we weren't sold on a religion, we weren't sold on Hollywood, we weren't sold on like the regular world. And we were always researching. When he died, I was like, I'm going to keep this flag going. And my friend Nova and Matthew, they're like, let's do a podcast, because they're always talking about this stuff. And when you have a passion project like that, then it just brings you everything else. So yeah, that's a little bit about me. I snowboard. I'm an herbalist, astrologer. Yeah. So thank you, everybody, for having me. Thanks for everybody listening.
Nice. That's pretty cool, because I did start off this show speaking a lot about the occult and philosophy and things like that. I've always been kind of big on foreign policy and all that stuff, so it's been kind of a blend. And I think this is a good show to kind of like, I was talking to Liz last night, and I said I kind of have gotten so much caught up with the day-to-day stories more so, and I haven't been infusing enough about the occult stuff as of late. And I kind of want to go back into some of the philosophy, some of the stuff where I kind of started kind of explaining out this matrix. And so this should be fun on the back half of the show to kind of get into some of that stuff. I want to throw a shout out to, some of my friends out there in the chat. I see Miguel is in the building. Jackie, what's up? Good to see you. La Señora Monique is here. What's up? My brother Warren is in the building. Chris H is here also. And so all those others who are in the chat who we haven't seen. I see Kaswarma Kate is here also. For those who, whether you're here right now or whether you'll hop in later, glad to see you. Thank you for joining us. As we say, you can be anywhere else, but you're here live with us, and we appreciate it. Make sure you hop into the conversation. If you're new to finding this stream, feel comfortable, hop in, say whatever, have your views. We will invite you into the conversation. So that said, couple of topics that I want to go into. You said Bad Cookies and Lady Alex should be here soon. Nice, nice, nice. And I see Gypsy
Becky.
there in the chat too. So of course we got to do an update on what's going on with this Israel US Iraq war. We're going to talk a little bit about that. I want to talk about Cuba for a little bit. That we're going to go into. I want to talk a little bit about Joe Kent's resignation, of course, and I'll just leave it at that for now.
Cuba still ain't got no power.
No, they don't. There's been some help that's been coming from Mexico, and I think a couple of other countries are trying to help out. I think Jamaica has been trying to send some aid and help also. So that's good to know, especially since there's been cooperation with Cuba and those other places for many years. So I definitely I don't know. I'll get. Let me stay on topic for a minute and kind of get these other stories out of the way real quick. We've had one. I feel remiss if I didn't bring up a huge figure for me growing up, because I was big on action flicks and of course martial arts. We had the passing of an icon and a legend. So I just want to kind of shout him out and give.
Chuck Norris is not dead. Okay.
Yo, you won't accept it. You won't accept it.
No, because he just because he beat death, bro. He beat him up, and now he's got to be death. So
that's what it is. He just went on, took a new job.
He just got a new job, bro, and that's it. He whooped Death's ass. Now he got to beat Death, and that's what happened to Chuck. I ain't hearing this shit, bro. Fuck is you talking about? What?
I hear you.
He was beating niggas up on his birthday. Did you not see him beating niggas up on his birthday? He was 86. He did an Instagram post beating somebody the fuck up. You telling me 10 days later he dies? No, bro. Death came for that smoke. He whooped his ass. Now he got to be Death.
At 86. I mean,
it is what it is.
Like, I don't know how
86
many.
86 is 86 too, right? Like,
80. Yeah.
No,
I
agree with Teal. Like, this is like the most optical illusion we've ever seen. And Elvis might be dead. I don't know about Michael Jackson. I actually think he's alive, but Chuck Norris, he's too strong for that shit. And I think you're right. Death is over it. He's had that same role for thousands of years, and so they're like, "Yeah, Chuck, you're the only one that can beat Death." So here you go. I believe you. I like it.
You know those 6 degrees of separation kind of things. Believe it or not, I actually met Chuck Norris's wife when I was in Greece. Because he actually, lived partially in a couple of different countries, and his wife, Christy Brinkley, was living there in Crete while I was in the military, and so it was cool to meet her. She's very down to earth, cool, just walking around, down in the market with everybody else, and didn't look at herself as some big important celebrity or whatever. I gotta say, in remembrance to the Chuck, may he be elsewhere, just not around us anymore. The movie that solidified me as a Chuck Norris fan, the one I guess that blew him up, and when I learned more background to this movie, it made me like him more and more as I was in my early, I guess, 20s or so. The movie Return of the Dragon with Bruce Lee. One of the greatest fight scenes in the movie ever, in my opinion. And the funny thing about it, for those who don't know, they were good friends and they would spar together back and forth. And he decided, I would like to put you into a movie. At that point, Chuck was just competing in tournaments and stuff. And that's literally the movie that like catapulted his career. And why we have Walker Texas Ranger, and while we had the Delta Force movies that he had, and late he was in Expendables. This is why we have like all those great movies to look back to and TV shows. And I don't know, I always thought it. And then I can't remember what was his exercise thing that he used to have. It was always I don't know. I just think that Chuck Norris is a huge icon, and he should definitely be given his flowers.
Bowflex.
Bowflex.
Because we
That's right.
we're forced to watch those infomercials.
Infomercials, yeah.
Like, especially if you like to watch like TV late at night, you're like, yeah, Bowflex. Yeah, he was like, during that time, we had a drink special. I was in college, and it was called Chuck Norris. Dude, it was just flavored vodka with Red Bull or any energy drink. All the energy drinks were coming out, and so it was like a huge explosion. And Chuck Norris shots were like $1, $2. So you just like buy around for everybody. People were puking all over in the streets because of Chuck Norris. Like, because I worked at a really nice restaurant next to this terrible college bar, and we were just like, people were just puking all over the place. It was that Chuck Norris. He lives in our lot, like in our hearts forever, in one way or another.
Yeah. I don't know if y'all ever remember epic rap battles, but it was a thing for a little while online.
Hell yeah!
One of the best ones ever is what was it, Chuck Norris versus Abraham Lincoln?
Yes.
He was like, "I'm Chuck fucking Norris," as he jumps out of all the Abraham Lincoln pennies he was drowning in. Oh, I don't know. Greatest. I mean, I could talk about this all day, but
you want to know something we ain't never heard Chuck say?
What?
The N-word.
No, you know what? You're right about that. Of major celebrities, especially of that time period, I've never heard him like be offensive to anybody.
Nope, he was just whooping niggas' asses.
Yeah.
He ain't never said the N-word. He ain't never dropped the N-bomb. He ain't never said no racist slur. None of that. Just
the crazy thing. His co-host was his name, Clarence something, who played Trebek on Walker. He died like 20 years ago. It's crazy, and he was much younger. It's like, good gracious, I don't know, but shout out to a real one and a legend. Yeah, we need a warship name. Yeah, why don't they? I mean, hey, break the trend, name a warship after him. I think that's something that everybody will give. I think everybody would give Trump props on that, even those of us who don't really enjoy the man at all. But yeah, shout out to Chuck. I also noticed another passing of somebody who's been kind of very impactful. I'm not going to say I necessarily have love for this person or hate for this person at all, but this one I just saw just kind of came out of right field and was kind of interesting. So I'm gonna put this on the screen also. I heard Robert Mueller died.
And our amazing satire, y'all. And our amazing president was like, yeah, that's what I fucking thought. I'm glad he did. God damn, talk about piss on a nigga grave before he get in it.
Mm-hmm. Like, yeah, you dare go against me.
Yeah. I'm glad you did.
It's the equinox too. The equinox. Yeah, I think when
it could be something. It could be cosmic.
And died. Born on the cross, died on the cross. Interesting. Because that's when the equinox is. We're like at the cross. Otherwise, it goes to X when we go all the way to the solstice of the winter or the summer. And so we're right in between. So the equinox, like this is a true cross. And so I believe it's really attached to Easter. I believe in the fall. That's when this guy named Jesus was maybe born. But these deaths and almost like sacrifice, like, do they wait for the equinox or does it happen? Or like they have like a death sentence because of what they do and who they work for. It's very interesting.
I mean, that is true. Warren said he did have Parkinson's. I think he had Parkinson's for a long time too.
Okay.
Oh, and that's worse. So okay.
Hey, is old boy dead?
Who?
Back to the Future?
No. You're talking about Michael J. Fox?
Yeah.
No.
Michael J. Fox ain't dead.
Oh,
okay. No, he got it too.
The other MJ, there's 3 of them, really.
And he's holding on. But he hasn't been in the media a long time. I mean, he hasn't been out in public a lot lately, so I'd be scared to mention his name, knock on wood, so he don't pop up next.
That's a terrible disease too. It's like disease of the mind, almost like zombifying the mind. My aunt just died of like Parkinson's, and it's just a hard battle. So, okay. Sometimes I'm like, are these monsters like, do they die because of their monstrified, version of themselves, or
You know
sometimes
what?
disease takes you over?
I miss Warren's comment. I do got to bring this up because, hey, we call it, we don't try to like whitewash anything. I forgot about this. He did love Netanyahu, and I do remember he was kind of on the Zionist tip. Now, I know he was kind of quiet of recent years, but I do remember like a good 10 years ago or so, and he was real big into, the whole Zionism movement.
I mean, being in that position, I feel like you got to be, don't you think?
Yeah, in order for you to be a big time celebrity, I kind of feel like either you have to be or you have to just shut your damn mouth.
Yeah, it's one of the two. There's no real in between,
You have to never speak on anything having to do with the Middle East.
And if you do, we're gonna kill you. So watch what you say and count down.
In which apologies for even using that term Middle East. I hate using that term because it was just created to disguise the fact of, you're moving a bunch of Europeans to a place and claiming that it's theirs, and that, okay, you guys are trying to tell me that you come from the tectonic plates of Africa, that's your homeland. But okay, I won't go in on that one right now.
Hey, I love when white people be like, I got Native American in me too.
Well, some of us are mods. There's the middle, the Midwest as well, right? It's the same kind of like division of these lands, especially as they're recolonizing them from the same fucking Zionist people. So that's what they were gonna definitely get into, like where we have the Midwest, you're barely West. And it was divided as like the colonization was going through, everyone was trying to go to California for the gold and like the newness, but they had to go through the Midwest, right? Where there might be storms, there might be some native tribes that want to kill you. Yeah, or all sorts of things, some mountain ranges. And so this Midwest, Middle East, I was thinking the same thing. Like it's dividing into this like colonization, but also conquer, the conquistadors. They're dividing it up because they're conquering it and they're taking it over and dividing.
Yeah. So yeah, you did bring up a little bit. I mean, yeah, I hear your points. Definitely makes sense. It's kind of funny. To get to the most middle point of the country, you're actually at almost the edge of the Midwest, what's considered Midwest, because you have to be damn near to at least the middle of Colorado to be directly in the middle.
What is it? You got to be on it's where Colfax and 25 meet.
Totally. Right before the continental divide. I believe the continental divide divides this continent because it comes all the way from Canada, Alaska, it even goes through North Dakota. I'm from North Dakota. The Great Divide is like 30 miles away from where I grew up, and you can barely tell, but it's still the Great Divide, and then it goes all the way down, into Colorado, but also in South America, and it divides the whole like structure of North America, South America into, for real, and like that's kind of where the Midwest happens, because then they would have to like go over that hump. But it gets really interesting, like where this colonization, where it's a brand new world. We've only been on this planet for 5,000 years, and we all just started eating berries not that long ago, and everything just worked out so beautiful and perfectly as we colonized it. And it just like happened to be. It's so much older than that, like where things have been obviously recycled, and there's evidence here about that. So all the new settlers and all this like fake history that we've all grew up with. So much of our history has been erased. We've all been given the same, like, this is your history. And most of it is there's blank spots in it, in everyone's history. And every single person that lives here, there are holes in where you got here, how your ancestors got here. It's really interesting. And when I started looking into my own my family history, excuse me, it started to get really like, wait, what? it never added up to the bullshit history books that we were given, right? It never added up to even like the religious bullshit. Like, but we were given like history books that were written by the same people that are all tied in with Epstein and Bill Gates, right? They own all the history
McGraw
books.
Hills and shit like that. Yeah.
Right. So
You know.
even the Romans took over the Bible. So whoever writes the history books, like people are like so like, no, everybody knows that's what happened, but nobody knows what their real family fucking history is. Where, like, how did you get here? Was everybody just like, I'm gonna go to college in the New Americas and hopped on a boat with a scholarship? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Was everybody brought here as slaves? Absolutely not. A lot of people were emerged from the underground as far as the natives go, as far as the new land went, because this continent, I think, got destroyed. We all had to rediscover it. And when the aristocrats came over, they started really fucking shit up. And this started in the 15th century, but it really started taking off in the 18th century. And it wasn't that long ago. We do not know what our great grandparents, how they got here. I know a couple stories.
Well, I do,
yeah, so
unfortunately, because my family's my great grandfather was
unfortunately,
an
no, that's
immigrant.
great.
Well, my great grandfather was an immigrant, so like my great grandfather came from Haiti. I have a picture of him from like 1895, I believe.
Yeah, and that's
Um,
rare to have
but
even that.
but that's where it stopped. As far as everybody else, my great grandmother, I know of Laura, but and I have pictures from like the 1940s of my grandfather growing up. But by that time, they were already quote unquote sharecroppers, if you may say, you know what I'm saying? So they were already on a piece of land that might have they inherited, later on down the line, but obviously it most likely was their slave master's land because my great grandmother married a passer, and my great grandfather, I have a picture of him. He looks white. You know what I'm saying? So like, I just know though anybody prior to that definitely were slaves. You know,
Yeah.
which sucks. And so when it comes to that part of it, that's where my history starts. It starts with my grandfather and his parents. And that's it. Anything prior to that is definitely lost in the sauce, just based off of oppression and systematic things of that nature. But like my great grandfather came from Haiti. I got one, but I do feel I feel sad for the people that can't do their ancestry and actually get accurate knowledge or genealogy and stuff like that due to whatever type of history that is connected to the transatlantic slave trade or just being oppressed and not allowing you to get that type of history or not even being able to keep up with that type of history. Um, because I mean, we all know they didn't want us to read, they didn't want us to find out where we came from, they didn't want to know what tribe we were part of, if we were part of a tribe, all that, everything in between. And it's still now that it's still that thing now because as Mariah brought up about McGraw being a Epstein connected type vibe, then we got the 23andMe, another
Yeah.
apple juice connected type of vibe. You know what I'm saying? And then even then, because I was thinking about it, I was like, outside of us having these freedom of speech things. By the way, I do want to talk about freedom of speech today because shout out Afro Man for definitely
Oh.
putting Afro motherfucking MAN. Happy about that one, but like having that freedom of speech and knowing that the same woman that owns 23andMe that happens to be a Zionist sympathizer, we'll say it that way. I've learned new language, Marcus. You see, look at that, a sympathizer. Cough on that. Knowing that she's one of those and she created YouTube as well.
Well,
As a
no, it's
point
her sister's
it's her
YouTube.
sister. Oh, her sister's YouTube.
Well,
Still.
and I think she just recently sold it, but she sold it to like a friend, and then I think she reacquired a bunch of stocks in it. So her name is technically not on the 23andMe, and it's kind of the same thing with it's Ann Wojcicki and what is it? Is it Sue Wojcicki? But it's the Wojcicki sisters. And
But they still connected. You know what I'm saying? They still got their hands in
they
it.
still got a hand
clean.
in it. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And then they looked out for their homies and was like, oh no, the Jew apple juice people got their stuff white. You know what I'm saying? It's like, damn, we can't believe nothing that y'all tell me or where I came from because it's a lie. I
Yeah.
mean, I can't say it's a lie, but you know what I'm saying? I'm not the one, sucking on a goddamn Q-tip and sending it in to people. Because I be damned, y'all fucking put my shit at a motherfucking crime scene. I listen to Dave Chappelle, sprinkle
Yeah.
some crack on it. I'm not doing that.
Yeah, I wouldn't do it either. And another reason why I wouldn't do it is because um it's kind of biased towards whatever your ethnic makeup is, because um when you start trying to search people, especially who are black and indigenous, because of forced migration and over the recent forced migration, it's a lot harder to be able to trace it back. And so a lot of people think, well, even if you came over through the transatlantic slave trade, you'll think, oh, well, my family went into North Carolina, Virginia, one of those places, and then we moved to New York or we moved to Chicago, and that's it. It's normally not that simple.
Hell
Uh,
no.
you might have came in through Jamestown or something like that, and then you were shipped down to a plantation in Mississippi, and then they went down into like the Bahamas, and because at different time periods, some of the slavery became illegal in certain places, and so you could not buy more slaves. So they would ship slaves to other places, and they would have breeding plantations.
Ooh.
And the breeding plantations is how they were able to skirt the fact that they couldn't import more slaves. That's the reason why I'll push back real heavily on some people. It's like, well, the transatlantic slave trade doesn't make that much sense because most of the slaves didn't even come from Africa straight to America. I'm like, yeah, but you're leaving out breeding. You're ignoring that whole part. And um, even with the breeding farms, most of that happened in the Caribbean, whether that was Bahamas, whether that was Trinidad and Tobago, whether that was Jamaica. It
Haiti.
happened in those areas, Haiti. There was some of it that still did happen illegally in the States, because once they figured out they were doing the breeding farm, they made that part illegal. They did not make it illegal for you to send your slave somewhere else to be bred. And so that was ways where, even though they would say, oh, well, we made this new law to kind of push or slow down slavery, they continued in different ways. And I guess since we're on the topic already, we might as well just keep on going on this topic, and then we can kind of bounce around. One thing when we start talking about slavery that I think people miss, and in the Latino community, they especially don't tie this together. Many of the original slaves who were in here were Latino, also were Native American. It wasn't just black people. Um, the reason why they started to lean more towards black slaves more than anything is because many of the natives who knew this land, there were more rebellions, there were more escapes, and they like, okay, this is just too much of a freaking headache. We also have many of our people getting killed in the middle of the night, and so they were like, okay, we're gonna start kind of going away from this more problematic, um, resource as they would have looked at it. And so since you had people who, okay, if I escape, I can dip off into all these other areas. I know the terrain way better than you, so you can't keep up with me. That's the reason why
Mhm.
slave masters started to imply some of the methods that slavery in the biblical days used to do. They would literally take, for instance, say you lived in Assyria, and they enslaved the Assyrians. The Syrians would get put into the Babylonian regions. The Babylonians would get put into another area, and they would constantly move people around. And they did the same thing here also. They would take certain people and say, all right, we're going to move you into Louisiana. We're going to move you to Mississippi. We're going to move you to here. And then it also made a difference on which plantations and which masters it was. And so it gets more complicated than we know. I mean, a lot of people don't realize, like, the first casualties, first slaves of the transatlantic slave trade were slaves going out of America. They were the Tainos, which came out of what was at that time called Hispaniola, into Spain. Those were the first ones taken out, and that happened before they started taking slaves out of West Africa. And and also, even then, once they started with that, they were still taking people and moving Native Americans down to Cuba, and they were moving, people from Mexico into like Nicaragua, and they were moving people all over the place. And so that was one thing that I wanted to throw in before I go into more of another tangent. I'll hand the floor back to somebody else who wants to add in.
Well, you're absolutely right, because like, and if you just understand the concept of how the divide and conquer was definitely utilized by these entities. You know, we couldn't have our hair braided. You know, they knew, you know what I'm saying? They watched us, they studied us. We were like a lab rat for them, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And so understanding how they viewed us and how we were no more than just cattle, or whatever the fuck you want to consider how they viewed us. It's way deeper than just, oh, you know, they brought slaves over here from Africa. Hell no, they was picking up motherfuckers up all over the place. Any person that looked brown, that looked like they could be oppressed, they were like, oh, free pickings, let's go get them. You know what I'm saying? It didn't matter as long as you just weren't from where we fit to take you. You know what I'm saying? It didn't even have to just be America. As long as you're not from where I'm fitting to take you, that's all I care about.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I mean, that's the same thing they do in the prison systems these days. I just finished talking to my baked and bougie crew about that when it came to generational curses and traumas. Got, you know what I'm saying? Just trying to educate others to understand that it's not always like male centered, or it's not always about relationships. It has to deal with your actual, like, your genealogy. Like, it has to deal with generational trauma can come in different aspects. It just doesn't have to be, you know, oh, something didn't work out here. You know, I learned this from my parent. Hell no. Think how deep that shit really got to go. If we're talking about generational stuff, go back 2, 3, 4 generations to understand, like, oh, you know what I'm saying? I just made this connection. The vitamin D deficiency for Black people, right?
Mm-hmm.
Majority of it has to deal with the fact that our skin does not absorb UV rays thanks to melanin, right? The carbon in our skin kind of deflects it. But then I thought on a generational thing was maybe because when we actually got free, or we're still on the cusp of having freedom, we used to leave our fucking shutters closed all the time so that we weren't easy pickings when it came down to the slave catchers or the slave masters. You know what I'm saying? Our slave quarters didn't have windows. So generationally, we passed that on to the next generation. Now we get into the 60s and the 70s doing the same thing. Now we can come outside of those redlining districts and maybe even purchase a house in a white neighborhood, but you still gonna keep them motherfucking blinds closed. Which now, let's go into 2026. Marcus, you know, like I know, when you drive into a white neighborhood and you see a white person's house wide the fuck open, no fucking covered, like no fucking curtains, no nothing, you like, God damn.
Nothing to hide, huh? Yeah,
You know
that's
what I'm saying?
white collar crime.
That, you feel me? I'm just like, damn. They windows wide the fuck open, but you know, a Black person's house, why? Because we shut our blinds.
Yeah, definitely. You know, when anything going down, you might be cleaning or something and kick all the blinds open and let sunlight in. But after that, yeah, you close that shit back. Well,
you close that shit down.
Well, also we'll have blinds. I've seen a lot of, you know, suburban areas where they don't have nothing covering their windows at all. It's just wide open.
It's just windows. They just wide open. But Black people, we gonna put a curtain or two. We gonna have that cute little runner at the top. We might even have doubled up curtains where the first layer is sheer. When we open up our windows, we get the sunlight, but we close them bitches back the fuck up.
Mm-hmm.
That's a generational thing. That's something we learned.
It's like jewelry, like, or stores, like businesses, they have all their lights on, right? At night they have, like, because they have security. They have security. They want to showcase what they have, and anybody that tries to go in there, you're gonna be seen. And so, like, yeah, that's definitely a thing. Otherwise, like, I always, as soon as the sun goes down for me, I gotta put up my tapestries over my window. People are always looking in, seeing what you're doing, trying to catch you. But
and it's funny.
Like, they're like, what?
It's funny, like growing up in Kansas City, like one of the biggest crimes in the suburbs that's right next to us is peeping toms. That's like literally one of the biggest crimes that they have. Like, they don't have a lot of violent crime, robbery, stuff like that. Peeping toms. It's like,
okay,
y'all leave your windows open. Y'all leave your
On
windows
purpose.
open and then complain about weirdos staring in.
And like they're like, you know, like they want people to see them. It's almost like they're asking for it. Absolutely. Like, how dare you look at me? Like,
it's just like, where's the common sense in this? You don't want people to
Crystal
look
Palace.
at you, but you get right out of the shower, butt naked up there, just free as a bird, and you're surprised that some weirdo is looking in your window. And they might not even be a weirdo. They might just be walking by like, what the fuck?
God damn.
Exactly.
I mean,
they might have
it's a
seen something that they
compliment.
liked that they wasn't ready for. I mean, goodness. Don't mean that they was intentionally coming to, hey, well, I know Margaret always gets naked about this time. No, I mean, he just been walking down the street and was just shocked at what he saw. I mean, you never know. Different cultures, different. You never know where this dude came from, what his experiences are. Or kid. Because teenage boys, hey, back in the day, if they could get a JCPenney's catalog and be like, ooh, I think I see a nipple in there, they would have. So I'm just saying.
Oh, they get wind that there's a sorority slumber girl party, or just a slumber party of 8th graders or 7th graders, right? All the boys are trying to look through the windows, like your friend's brother and all his friends are stalking you. It's a real thing. It's a real thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, the world hasn't changed that much. And this city is built off of stolen children, stolen women, stolen help, built with the aristocrats and the Gilded Age.
I wanna answer a question because Jackie asked something. She said, would a sharecropper be sort of equivalent to a serf or villain in feudal times? It's basically one step up from slavery.
Yeah, it's like indentured servitude, but you ain't got
Mhm.
a debt to pay, low key. But you do
Yeah.
Okay, it's indentured servitude without the actual debt being on paper that you have to pay, but there's a debt that you're gonna pay for just existing. So you might have, like, for instance, out in Virginia, there's peanuts and soybeans, right? Let's say that you got a little bit of land and you got a soybean farm, but you got a motherfucker that's just recently unslave mastered about 3 miles away. That man can come on your land and say, I'm gonna need a third of this, or he gonna make life hard for you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's pretty much how, like, my grandfather had to deal, because he had his land happened to be on the same land as where he was technically freed from, and there was a white family that lived there. My grandmother and her sisters had to continue to perform services for that family.
Mm-hmm.
I.e., my grandmother would make breakfast, you know what I'm saying? And she would have to go, cook breakfast for the white people before she could even cook it for her own 11 brothers and sisters.
Yeah.
So.
And like my mom's my grandparents on my mom's side, they grew up at sharecropping, and my grandfather had to drop out of school in was it 2nd or 3rd grade, and my grandmother dropped out in the 8th grade, or 8th or 9th grade. That didn't stop them from being successful later on. My grandfather working for like 40 years at the railroad, my grandmother working about that equivalent at KU Medical Center, but and she kind of worked in the nursing field. But what they had to do was, in order for them to have a place to stay, they had to basically work the fields of somebody else's land. And they were never really given, they were given very, very little in pay to be able to survive on their own. Like, they never could basically get out from under this debt to be able to go and own their own land. It was always like, okay, well, you didn't get enough of cotton, or it wasn't cotton, it was it would have been like corn more than likely, or wheat or barley. You didn't pick enough of this, so we're only giving you this much, and this is basically just enough to feed your family. And so that's kind of like it for my family, and it's different depending on region and depending on what that person who owned the land and house wanted from you. They could, like in Till's case, say, hey, you're going to come in and you're going to basically work in the big house. You're going to cook, you're going to clean, you're going to do all those things like that. It could be, no, we need you out in the fields to do whatever. Or it could be you're literally cleaning up after them as maids. So that's kind of how sharecropping worked. Um, so hopefully that answers that question. Um, oh, and I saw another question here. She said, or he or she says, my sister found me through 23andMe. I would never do that shit. LOL. 23andMe, the only thing any of these DNA companies that are good for right now is they can find living relatives who have done that or whose DNA is on file, or they can find they're good for like if you want to find a parent or something like that, they can do recent memory. But they're very their methodology, the way they do it, make them very piss poor for going past, I want to say, you know, 5 or 6 generations. And what I mean by their methodology is very poor. For instance, when they try to do the Levant, for instance, since so many people have moved and traversed that land, so many people have been there. Whose bones are you getting, and who are you testing them off of? Are you testing them off of people whose bones were there in the early 1900s, people who were there in the 1500s? Are you testing them off of people who were there 1,000 years ago? Which bones are you testing? And what are you getting that off of to come to this understanding? Also, a lot of times they'll say the Levant, and they'll say, well, this ties to Levant, proving that I tied to this land. The Levant is literally like 6 or 7 different countries. It's a very, very wide area. And also you got to remember it, Canaanites, all kind of other people lived in various different areas. So there would have been people who were living in Syria, who bounced from Lebanon, to bounce from all these other areas. So to try to discern who lived in what area, like for instance, I'll give Egypt because Egypt is not as controversial. It depends on what time period in Egypt that you're going to. There's a certain time period when the Greeks or the Macedonians came and took over that area. There's a part where you had other Arabs who came from as far away as, you know, all the way to modern day Pakistan and different like areas like that who came in. You had Romans who were living there. So whose DNA are you going off of? And you had literally centuries where various different groups of people controlled that land. So whose DNA are we going off of? And you can do that for anywhere throughout the Levant, anywhere throughout different parts of Africa. Now, it wouldn't necessarily be a bunch of different Europeans as you go deeper into the heart of Africa, but you have different migration patterns of Arabs and different tribes of African. There are a lot of people who were in South Africa who actually their DNA traces back to North Africa. So it gets very, very tricky when you start getting into those countries.
That's cool and all, but I mean, think about all the unmarked graves that we have just because of slavery. Like they're digging up a slave grave right now in Richmond, and what they doing with the bones? Throwing them into a mass grave. Think about all the mass graves that the slave pits. Throw them in the pit. Think about the babies that got thrown to alligators in the bottom of the ocean. Think about the slaves that jumped off the boat and died at the bottom of the ocean. Like, there's no fucking way you're gonna tell me as a Black woman you're gonna find you're gonna find my genealogy. Like that's dead.
No, well, and that's like almost everyone everywhere, even on North America. I've been really like digging into it. Even the natives that were here before all the conquistadors and the colonizers, they emerged from underworld. They supposedly all like the Hopi, all of them said that they emerged from underground because they went underground, I believe, to survive a cataclysm that happened in North America. North America, to me, it looks like part of it got melted, extreme heat, and part of it got frozen. And then when that froze, and all those glaciers started rapidly melting, it flooded. It flooded this land. That's why humans were rediscovering it. And that included the Native Americans, if they were coming over from the higher lands when they all had to migrate They were told to migrate because of all these things going on. And then some emerged from underground. Some were brought here. Some were made here. Some were like genetically modified here. So this continent is full of so much history. When I started looking around at these old cities, like I'm in Colorado, there's no old buildings here. Okay. There's just none. These are built by miners and cowboys, and they fall apart in no time. If you go to some of these older cities, like especially on the East Coast, Pittsburgh, what they're like, oh my God, the construction of the buildings and the architecture, that is pre-Columbian. That is pre 1492. I think there is a mass amazing civilization that happened all across these two continents that got destroyed. There was migration. People went either underground, they had to migrate, or they got killed. And so the rediscovery of it. So 1492, fuck Columbus. But this whole like idea, 1492, there was the doctrine of discovery that was a treaty. It was like, all right, go out and rediscover the world. If you find brown people there, put a flag in. We didn't build any of these cities. These old cities in North America, they were founded like between the years of 1492 and I want to say like 1800. Right, there's a lot of shit going on. One, people are not creating these amazing buildings. They were not. And two, I think there was a lot of slave going on besides just everybody coming from Africa. I've been on this planet for a long time and I've been able to tap into my past lives through hypnosis. And one of them being a merchant sailor. I went from England to Jamaica a lot. And it all started with the finer things like silk and opium and China and gunpowder and tea and spices. And then it became the human trafficking going on. But it wasn't just everybody from Africa. Children. Okay, so the Civil War ended in 1865. Children, there was a mass amount of orphans on this continent, especially in the 1800s, turn of the 19th century or the 20th century. And after the Civil War, because slavery was becoming more and more illegal for adult slaves, child labor and child slavery became more and more populated. All these wars, they would steal the children. There's so many children that were displaced. And then you see movies like Mary Poppins, Little Orphan Annie, Shirley Temple,
Peter
the
Pan.
Newsies. There and so in the Civil War ended in 1865. In 1870, 1 out of 8 children were employed. By the 1900s, 1 in 5 children were employed. Child labor was a thing. It was huge because there were no more adults. Because the adults remembered the old world. They either got slaughtered, and if they remember, they got put into insane asylums. The emerge of insane asylums at this time and the rise of orphans. Where did all these children come from? Was everybody just fucking like rabbits? They were displaced. Their parents were killed. Or they were also maybe like incubated and like test tube babies. It's really interesting because all these children that were either brought to this country or were made like they were the new slaves in 1870, like after 1865, after the Civil War. There was a lot like the shareholders, but then they're like, what about the children? The children became the new slaves, the new slave race. It's quite interesting. Yeah, sorry, Teal, I didn't mean to cut you off.
You good? So Hook wasn't the bad guy in Peter Pan.
No.
If y'all really
That's right. That's movie, right.
Hook was not the bad guy in Peter Pan. He was trying to take the kids back where the fuck they needed to go. It was like Peter Pan out here stealing babies. Little fucker just walking in your fucking window, just popping in with some fairy dust, getting you fucked up, drugging the kids, dragging them to hell. Like
spoonful of sugar? A spoonful of sugar will help the medicine
makes the medicine go down. Come on.
Yeah.
Come on.
Drugging.
The sound of music. You be rounding motherfuckers up with her little vibrational fucking hymns and shit. That's some siren shit, bro. But who am I to tell y'all about Disney? That'll be another day when we break down Disney and all his fuckery.
Well, no,
Yeah,
these Disney movies have the Aristocats, the
Yeah.
Newsies, right? Yeah.
but if you go
Orphans.
back, there's books that you could there's books that you can go back to, like the earlier books of Peter Pan and stuff like that, and it's kind of dark.
Yeah,
It's
the
kind of
Brothers
dark.
Grimm. I don't know why they banned the Brothers Grimm version of all the kids' stories when the kids' stories were true from their point of view. You know, Goldilocks getting ate the fuck up by some bears because that's what the fuck would happen. If you go fucking with some bears, you gonna get ate by a bear. There really shouldn't be a happily ever after. Like, what? Why are we making it cool for kids to go fuck with bears? And now you see what happens. Like, it's stupid.
Yeah, I guess one thing that I'll throw in that I'll just briefly just touch on this a little bit when we start talking about coming to America and things like that. One of the biggest, I guess, one of the biggest names that I would throw out there, because people loosely talk about it and we don't go into names. And I've noticed people are big on throwing out, the Rothschilds, of course, they throw out, why come I'm blanking on it, the Rockefellers. Um, they may talk about the Carnegies, they may talk about, some of these other families. Um, I think that there's not enough emphasis brought into some of the people who've kind of faded into the background, who had a big impact on America. And one that I would like to bring up, which I'm going to go into eventually very deeply one of these days, is the House of Orange, of Nassau. And they are the creators of the Dutch East Indian Company, um, which the Dutch East Indian Company rose to about close to $8 trillion network, or family house, whichever you want to put it as, where they controlled a lot of the spice trade and things like that going out of Asia. Also responsible for many, many, many massacres and things like that. But also when the whole transatlantic slave trade and things like that were going on, the race into Africa, the people who were behind a lot of the insurance and the funding of the ships, and even managing a lot of the ships that were trafficking the people, were the Dutch East Indian Company. And I saw somebody brought up, I think I saved it, about in Canada. I can't remember. I guess I didn't save it, but they brought up in Canada about recognizing the First Nations, the mass graves of natives of the First Nations people, and they were a lot more impactful. Um, the Dutch East Indian Company, or VOC, as their acronym is, because that's what it would be in Dutch. I can't pronounce it, but it's something something company. Um, the VOC, their impact was felt a lot more directly in Canada, even though they kind of backstopped a lot of the things that were going on throughout the rest of the slave trade. And people will focus on, okay, it started off with the Spaniards and Portuguese pushing a lot of the stuff. They don't factor in when it started to transfer into certain areas where the Brits were involved, and eventually the French got involved also. There was somebody who was helping funding and trading and doing all this stuff. And the whole our whole foundation that we basically live within, the whole capitalistic system, comes from them. It comes from the Dutch, because all these other nations we're still running through monarchs, basically. This was the first nation in which was powered mainly outside of monarchical control or some kind of religious figurehead, i.e., a pope. Um, this what they did was they started off with what basically stock trades, in a sense, between each other, as they were trading all of these goods that they got mostly out of Asia and trafficked into the Americas, and then eventually start doing that into parts of Africa and trading that into America. They also were a big funder of a lot of the pirate ships that were going on throughout the Caribbean. So they had their hooks really, really deeply ingrained in there. Even when the Spaniards started to kind of lose their hold, and as the French started to lose their hold, they were still very, very involved. And what they started doing is they started to actually marry in and immerse themselves within the British crown. And so when it got to their disillusionment and they became nationalized into the Dutch government, that's when that power center became nationalized within Denmark. And I know people will start talking about, when they talk about that area, the person that they love to bring up most of the time, uh, damn, why come I can't remember his name right now? Who went into the Congo? Leopold.
Leopold
Leo,
the second.
Leopold II. Leopold II was empowered to do his genocide and slavery and all that by the wealth that was acquired from, the House of Orange. And so that House of Orange, the reason why New York was called New Amsterdam, it's because of them and their foundation, the stock market that we're used to. They were the first persons to say, if you're an average person and you want to invest in a stock, and they would invest in trades, wars, all kind of different things like that. That allowed the average common man to get to the level of being, like royalty. And that is the rise of when you started to have the JP Morgan type people, where they weren't of royal decree, but they started to amass these types of wealth um outside of being, royalty. Now granted, you did have like House of Windsor and people like that, which had their wealth and got passed down, and their generations are no longer necessarily all royalty, but are able to take that money and then fuel it into other things, like you had with the O'Kane Fionns, which is the Kennedys, and what you had with like the Bushes and things like that. So that's, sorry, it was a long spiel, but just wanted to throw all that in there too. Sorry, anybody wanted to hop in?
Oh, okay, so you're talking about Leopold II, Belgium. He So part of the research, where what I've been looking at, the World Trade Fair, the World Fair, excuse me, of the world. We're going on during this whole transition of the old world to the new world, and it coincides with all these great fires. All these great fires all over Europe and also the United States, kind of coincide with these world fairs. And Leopold, in 1897, he had a world fair. Now they started in there was one in 1876 in Philly, 1776 in I'm sorry, that was the fair. They started in the early mid 1800s, and these world fairs, there was one in London, but Leopold was part of that. And what they were doing was they were showcasing all their discoveries, right? Because the doctrine of discovery, they went around the world and then they showcased a lot of this technology that they found, archaeology, architecture, and also humans. In some of the world fairs, they would have, like, they would go find tribe members, especially from, oh boy, what's the one really, really south? Patagonia. Patagonia tribe members were like circus freaks being shown at the these world fairs. And these world fairs, they were showcasing these crystal palaces. They were showcasing this technology that they had discovered from the Tartarian empires that were left over. And so they were showcasing them to the public, all the aristocrats, right? Showcasing them off, and then they would auction them off, sell them, and then burn. A lot of these cities had great fires, and then burn a lot of the evidence of the old world so that they can kind of cover it up, and also start creating like new parts of the cities. That's why you see a lot of the cities have old awesome architecture. And then yeah, I was like, all the different words. Then they start building up these like shitty like new shanties to the rest of the city, because that old architecture is before all this like doctrine of discovery happened, before all this like world trade, human trafficking, and rediscovering North America, South America. And the Aristocats, they came over here and they basically took their wives and they either made their children or sold the children a lot of times. It's really interesting. But these like the world fairs, I keep wanting to say world trade fairs, but world fairs, they showcase the old world before destroying it. And even, like I said, putting in tribe members in like a human zoo. I have this book, Crystal Palaces. There's a few still left in the world. They're botanical gardens now. Definitely one in London, definitely one in New York, definitely one in Montreal, Chicago, Cincinnati. All these, like, in my last hypnosis, I was in the late 1800s, and I met my uncle at one of these crystal palaces. I got to figure it out. So now botanical gardens, and something with the crystal palaces to do with maybe growing and incubating new children and the new civilization on this continent. That's quite dark and interesting. I'm trying to go through it. But the two books that I recommend looking into, that Fort Turning and Generations, the same authors. We got Strauss and Howe. So this is talking about the generation, especially on this continent, where like there's that silent generation, right? And then there's the boomers, and then so you see like throughout they've been documenting the changes in the generations and also correlating them with astrology, which is crazy, but a lot of stuff going on. This continent, North America, has so much history that we need to tap into. It's a touchy subject because some people think that they know that their history, and it's so close to home that people actually kind of resist it, that you'll find.
Till, did you want to add in?
Hey, I saw that comment that you posted for a second.
That YouTube deleted my comment.
Yeah, you saw that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. I don't give a damn. I read it. So yeah, all the mass graves of the indigenous that are in Canada, same thing. Same thing. Let me say it again. Same thing.
That's where my family came through, was Canada.
Child.
Here, can
I? So
and I'm here. Let me say this real quick, and I'll give it right back to you. I started to comment. I said it reminds me of their disgusting saying, "Kill the Indian, save the man." But sorry, back to you.
Save the white man. You forgot that part.
Well, no, this is what they were doing with the native kids.
But that's
they were
what
trying
I'm saying.
to convert them. Yeah.
Kill the Indian to save the white man. You got to finish the whole sentence politically correct. Make sure you input that part, because the natives weren't killing each other to save the man. No, that was not the case. And so now we even have, like, going back to the original comment about the mass graves, like all of the indigenous kids that go missing, all of the indigenous women that go missing, it sucks because they'll never have a name. They'll be put into a mass grave and be lost and never be heard of again. You know what I'm saying? They'll never be said. Their name will never be said again. And I'm real big as a spiritualist of saying my ancestors' names over and over again so that they do not die twice. You know what I'm saying? Child, don't even get me started on that's what I'm trying to say. Thank you, Alex. That's what I'm trying to say. You're not going to tell me I'm going to find my ancestors when y'all have literally erased them off the planet.
My great grandmother was
to find them. Can I finish, Mariah? I'm not quite done yet.
Yeah.
So thank you. So, you're going to sit here and tell me I know there's more mass graves than the ones that are in Richmond. That's just Richmond. We haven't talked about the mass graves that probably are in Roanoke and all these different areas just in Virginia. Then we go into the southern states that had slaves. You can't tell me that there aren't a massive amount of mass graves in Louisiana. That was a port for us. You know what I'm saying? You're not going to tell me that there's not a whole bunch of mass graves in the Gulf of Mexico. And I'm talking about in the bottom of the Gulf itself. You're not going to tell me there's not mass graves on the Trail of Tears, where they killed off more tribes in a little bit because they got tired of fucking watching them. Okay? You got to think about this. They get tired. These motherfuckers want to create. What makes me so mad about these motherfuckers that want to take over the world or whatever the fuck they claim to be doing, y'all get lazy as a bitch. Y'all get lazy as fuck. And then next thing you know, you get tired of fucking dealing with the population. So what do? You kill them off in mass quantities and throw them in a pit because you're lazy. You're fucking lazy. Yes, there's mass graves in Mexico. There's probably mass graves in California of the ones that the Spaniards got tired of fucking looking after. There's mass graves in Canada for when the French Dutch didn't feel like looking after no motherfucking more. There's probably so many bodies at the bottom of the fucking goddamn Niagara Falls because they got tired of fucking watching them. It's just when they get lazy, that's when they get to killing. It's when they get lazy. Prime example. Israel got tired of doing what the fuck they were doing over there. What they do? They start blowing shit the fuck up. They get tired. Y'all get lazy. And then y'all just start, hey, we need help. Go ahead and blow them up real quick. And y'all don't even want the blood on y'all hands because y'all pussy on top of that, which is crazy to be both. I'm done. I'm off my soapbox.
No, that's good. No, and there's something to that when racism isn't like as much of a thing as classism is.
Classism.
Like,
come on, Marcus. We said that
yeah,
before.
the Aristocats came over here like they were the fucking elites that got to come over on their ships and see the new world before everybody else, right? And then they got to decide what to do with it. And so to pick a race in order to do genocide is easy. That way, like, oh, you guys aren't part of that group, so you're not gonna fight for them because we'll turn on your group next. So it works every time, and it's not. It's classism, really, and it causes racism, and it is like this whole like we're all standing on a foundation of lies and fuckery in every way. And so of course we're all like, we don't know where we came from, we don't know our ancestry. Even when I look towards mine, my great grandmother was Cree. She's a native. How did she get a German Norwegian husband? Yeah, probably bought her. You know what I mean? Probably bought her. And that's good for her. She got to like maybe get out of like the reservation land that they all like put. And that tribe was part of like Canada and Wisconsin, Minnesota. But Canada, the land of the Canaanites, is very part of also the human trafficking because the ships would come to Canada and then go through the border. Like, and so just like in through the Caribbean, my other grandmother was born in China in 1910 to Christian missionaries from Canada, from Edmonton, and these areas are very, very, very famous now. If you do the research, for a lot of the missionaries were human trafficking children. So I believe my grandmother was born of her parents, but even then, it was very strict. They came over on a ship back to Canada in 1915, and she was part like there's a lot of children. There's like a lot of kids part of this like Christian missionary. So, and after that time too, all these like when you look at that area of Canada, Edmonton, a lot of the Christian missionaries were molesting children, trafficking them. Lincoln Park is part of Calvary. Lincoln Park, the band, I believe. That's why the band name is named after that, because of human trafficking. It goes really, really deep. And then when you look into Hollywood, all these like child celebrities, they're all part of the Disney club, right? But they a lot of times too are orphans. They were adopted. Adopted from who? They are creating these celebrities out of stolen children, or they're making them in labs, and like it goes deep, and it's been happening for a long time, and Canada is part of it, the land of the Canaanites. And when you go into maritime law, we were talking about like the piracy, because anything that's not land is navy. Anything that's sky, space, that's anything water. And so like there's different laws. So even when you go into a courtroom, you are entering a ship. You're going through the threshold and you're leaving land and going on to water. Canada is supposedly surrounded by water, even though 3/4 of it is. The other border is the United States. They consider the United States to be water. So Canada is also supposed to be in maritime law. And so there's all these loopholes that we've been under scrutiny for a long, long time. Anyway, that was my rant on that. But for real, like they work hand in hand. We are not free from the crown. Australia, South Africa, Canada, and the United States. We're all talking together on podcasts because we're all under the same crown. See, like we haven't left the English rule. We haven't.
Okay. Oh no, anything else you want to say before I anything
Are we gonna
either
talk about Cuba? Because I want to talk about the fact
that's
that
where I was gonna move on to
I
Cuba
want to talk
next.
about the Kenyan soldiers leaving Haiti too. Did you read about that? They started going
They
back to
finally
Africa.
decided to
Yeah,
leave
yeah, yeah. Now there's just
because
now they decided to fucking leave.
after they've been getting their ass kicked enough.
Okay, because them gangs was giving them a run for their motherfucking money.
Mm-hmm.
And I say that to say this: why the fuck they ain't going to? Since they saving people and they fucking out here trying to just help all the fucking islands, why the fuck they ain't in Cuba yet?
Yeah. For those who don't know the context, what we're talking about, or kind of forgot that story. Um, the United States decided to, by proxy, bring in Kenyans to go in and try to put down the rebellion of the people because they didn't want to deal with another like puppet leader, which the Western powers were trying to force in. And so after they sent in their Colombian hit squad to go in there and take out that leader, the people were like, no, 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 y'all not just gonna put in some kind of puppet. Because mind you, that leader who got taken out was there because another leader had been assassinated. And so they've literally had what, two leaders assassinated within the last probably 5 years. And so that's why they're like, no, if it's going to be anybody, it's going to be one of the local leaders. And so they've kind of risen up their own militias and decided, we as Haitians, we want to decide our own rule and our own and deal with our own sovereignty. And they decided, oh, by proxy, we'll get Kenyans to come in here and do our dirty work, and it did not work. Yes, so that's so it's kind of that's always a bright update when I hear something like that. I mean, it's just like when you hear all the assassination attempts on Ibrahim Traore that aren't working. I mean, it kind of reminds me a lot going into Cuba. Um, it's kind of funny. People will talk about how oppressive the Cuban regime is, and I'm not going to defend and act like they're perfect. Definitely not. But if you have citizens in your city which try to take out the government, what would any nation do? What would if the three of us all started some rebellion to push Trump out of power? What would happen to us? I mean, what would the law be? And it's kind of the same situation. Now, do I feel some sympathy and pity for some of these people who go at that route? Yes, I do, because what ends up happening is the United States and other countries put embargoes and tariffs and all kind of things to make life miserable in these countries. Once they made life miserable, they try to force the population to go on a suicide mission to try to take out their own leaders. And I'm like, how wicked and evil can you be that you're going to make the people suffer so that they will hate their leaders more and take them out so that you can stop punishing them? For instance, you guys know how many of the embargoes and the tariffs that are on Cuba that have to do with like medicine and healthcare? Like, they're literally killing Cubans because of some of the embargoes that they set on. And that's what they do literally worldwide. We put embargoes on countries to make the countries miserable, and then the people blame it on their leaders, just like how you have, like, you can go and speak to most Cubans and Venezuelans in Miami, and many of them are going to put all the blame on on the Venezuelan leaders, on the Cuban leaders and all that, and not think about the decades of sanctions that have went on their countries that have affected it. And then you'll have idiots in this country who throw out the propaganda of saying, oh, well, this proves that socialism or communism or whatever doesn't work. And it's like, I'm not saying it works or it doesn't work. I'm saying you can't use it as a fair example in your argument when it's being manipulated by outside forces. I mean, so that's
And then they get lazy and then they start killing and it's a cycle. Then they give you the rules that you got to follow. But they're going to tell you, I mean, y'all can do what y'all want to do. By all means, do what y'all want to do. Whoop de whoop de whoop. But then they start sending in little drops of bullshit. Look at Haiti. Prime example. All of the islands that they have something they want, they always let them get they let them get a little bit of far. They let them, get a little bit of rope. But the rope has stipulations to it. Yeah, we're gonna let them be, communists, or we're gonna let them be socialists, or we're gonna let them, we're just gonna watch from a distance. But they're still watching nevertheless. And then they interject themselves, they start killing everybody, and then they go, told y'all it wasn't gonna work. Bitch, what the fuck you mean? You didn't even let it work. But when you need help, and America's so quick to say, hey, we'll help you. We'll help you. They help, but they got a knife behind their back. They be ready to chop you real down at the knee. And their help never comes without strings attached. It always got its who's next to them. Read between those lines. And they always got their hand in it too. That's all I wanted to say, Marcus. I ain't mean to cut you off.
No, you're fine. You can cut me off.
I just heard that part when you said, you know what I'm saying? Because we trying to be socialist or communist. Man, we don't never get the chance to even let them be great, because then we got to stick our two cents in it, and now we killing them. And then it'd be like, and then it's not just outright blatant killing. It's killing as if in a, well, we just gonna let them kill each other.
Yeah, start the fight. Too. They start the fight, and then when everybody starts fighting, they're like, oh, we got to pull back. Rwanda?
Yeah, they throw the rock to shatter the glass house. They throw the rock, and then they hide their fucking hands.
Yep. Like, we can't handle this. So you have you're the superpower that came in to fuck shit up to begin with, and then and then we decide, and I talk about the military, industrial complex, decide whether to intervene or not, depending on if it's beneficial to our pocketbooks or not. So fucked up.
Yeah, I wanted to push back on something I said. I saw somebody say that it wasn't against medicine. That is a bold-faced lie. It wasn't. It was sanctions against medicine into Cuba. That I believe that was one of the 1992 sanctions. So if you go through the actual list, you can literally just Google this stuff. It's right there. The information tells you exactly what it was on. So to say, oh no, it wasn't on medicine, yes, it was.
Well, the illusion is that the world, we're against communism, we're against where we can justify all these wars we've been doing for decades, right? Because we have this communism fear, and so if you're considered a communist country, even by maybe another overlord making you a communist country island, that you're punished, that the world will punish you, and that's sort of like the message. You don't get to be the rest. You don't get to interact with the rest of the world because you're different.
Yeah. I see in the chat. TTWSUFA. Hey, it's definitely no hard feelings or anything. I think that you were definitely making good points and good arguments from your perspective. But I was telling myself also after the exchange last week that I got to keep in mind. I need to get more information when I'm having discussions back and forth with people to kind of get the person's context and viewpoint on where they're seeing things from, and mine also, and it can inform for a much better conversation or debate, because then you understand this person's worldview and your worldview and information that you might have, information that you get what I'm saying. So you can see each other's sides a lot better, and I do think that if if I lived outside of the US, I probably would have come to some of the conclusions that you had said, because I think I would have saw things better. I think for people who live outside of the US, I think it's not easy for them to understand the level of propaganda that we live in the United States, and how easy it is for people to be sucked into so many different things that are completely wrong. Like, I honestly got my wake up on the military as a whole after I was in the military. And most of the people who I know who are like a lot of the leaders of a lot of different protest movements that are former military, it's the same for them. They don't learn it until you join it. And at the same time, also, I do think it's important for those some people to have to learn it that way, because if you were in the military, you are able to give different contexts and understanding on different things that are going on. Excuse me. It's the same thing as working in different professions. If you worked in a certain profession, you can add different information and context. Like, there's so many things which I will hear that I know is complete BS from the government, because I was former military and I did work in the weapons field. Um, oh shoot, I guess we lost Mariah. Uh, but yeah, just in general, there's and I mean the level of propaganda in the United States is wild, and how hard and how much information is blocked from other countries.
Well,
Um,
I mean, baby, we
yeah, go
Hollywood. We
ahead.
gotta keep up. We gotta keep up we gotta keep up the good look, baby.
Mm-hmm.
We Hollywood, love. That's what we here to do. We here to put on a show. You ain't know that?
Yeah.
Whole time we
Oh,
been here, we've been putting on a show. 1776, we was putting on a
mhm.
show. They was like, y'all ain't gonna make it. Watch, bitch. And then what happened? Jamestown. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Keep
And
it
I'll
pushing.
say, not only just necessarily the propaganda, the level of distractions in America.
Come on.
The level of distractions in America, I think, are just outrageous. Um, you can completely just be involved, submerged into gaming culture, and your whole life revolves around playing video games. You don't think of anything outside of that. It can be
Why would I?
jewelry. It can be, I'm just in the makeup world and I worry about makeup and fashion,
Mm-hmm.
but never understand how, okay, you're into fashion, but how did these materials get to you? How did you get this like perfectly dyed shirt that you love? Who's making these shoes? Where did they come from? What is the propaganda that went on?
Sweatshops.
Exactly. The sweatshops. What is it? And beside and beyond the conditions of working in the sweatshop, what is the impact of that sweatshop on that whole entire area, even to people who don't work in the sweatshop. There was one video that I shared not that long ago
The indigo
where,
one, right?
yeah, where it was showing how bad the indigo is tearing up the whole atmosphere in that area, the breathing conditions of people who live there. And so even if they're not working in the sweatshop, how much is just decimating so many people who live in those areas is mind-boggling. And we hear nothing about this unless you just happen to be scrolling. And I've noticed even how YouTube is, to me, I used to think like, okay, maybe they're doing this not on purpose, but now I'm starting to think this is on purpose. How you used to be able to just search something on any of these search engines and find it. It doesn't erase the information, but what it does is it buries it. It
Mm-hmm.
buries it like 20, 30, 50 pages. You got to just keep going and going and going. And who the hell has 45 minutes to search through one search filter to find the proper information? That's what they do. I would advise also, if anybody has any family members who keeps old encyclopedias or dictionaries or things like that, hold on to it. Do not, for the life of you, do not let that go. There is so much information that I was able to absorb, especially growing up, from encyclopedias and things that I had. And if you check a modern encyclopedia, this information gets changed out. Some of this information they decide, this is more important, so we're going to put this in and take that out. And instead of just expanding the encyclopedia and making it bigger, they erase it. And I know people will think, oh, we're in the computer age, there's more information than ever. Yes, there's more information than ever, but sometimes
They're
when
monitoring
you
that
bury
information,
it,
y'all.
yeah, but sometimes even when it's right in your face, if they bury it and throw out enough false information, how do you know what's the real information if they just flood you with information? That's where the problem, that's where it gets tougher, when you start to have to understand and work on discernment to understand what the hell you're reading. And
Well,
a lot of people can't like, I'll give you something that's something benign. I was on X, which by the way, uh Elon just lost his lawsuit. Um, but I just wanted to throw that out there. But basically for defrauding investors and stuff like that. But I was seeing this conversation going back and forth about people who like the movie Sinners, and now they feel like, well, I can't like the movie anymore because this person told me that some woke thing is in there, and this is going against that, and so now I don't feel like I can like the movie anymore. It's like, stop paying so much attention to what every factor around you says. And I said this, I said, everybody has a narrative. Everybody has a narrative, everybody has a motive. I do this show because I feel it's important. That is a motive. Whether the motive is a good motive or a bad motive, everybody has a motive. And so don't use a motive as necessarily negative or bad. Um,
but I
but
feel okay.
but
I agree
but
with you, Marcus.
mhm.
But can I just interject this?
Yeah, yeah,
Motherfuckers
yeah.
is slow. Motherfuckers is slow, bro.
Yeah. Because I'm like, why are
Some,
you letting somebody tell you what movie you need to
well,
like? You
not
watched
even
the
that.
movie,
It's not
you
even that.
enjoyed it, and now you hate it because somebody said
Cause niggas is
that
slow.
something was going on. Yeah.
Niggas is slow, bro. And I mean slow, like, excuse me, let me use a better word. Let me use a 75-cent word for y'all today.
Mm.
Motherfuckers are remedial as hell.
Yeah.
Because if you're, okay, prime example, going back to your Google thing, if you search something on Google, motherfuckers is
Mm.
lazy and remedial. They won't
Yep.
go to page 20 to see what the fuck it really was in 2012. They gonna stop on page 2 because they lazy. Motherfuckers
Hmm.
got lazy, bro. It's
Yeah.
Wally all over. You feel me? Motherfuckers is connected to a phone that can give them all the information that they claim is out there, but they won't go and seek the information or fact check the information. Motherfuckers would prefer to be lazy and
Mhm.
loud and wrong first than to take the time and do the research and be loud and right last. You get my
Mhm.
drift?
Right.
And so when you got these motherfuckers that's sitting here going off of what the last motherfucker did, that could be wrong. And they're still gonna bandwagon on it because they're lazy and
Yeah.
remedial.
And
And that's
people
pretty much
don't
what
want
it
to
is.
stand alone. They don't want to stand alone. So, oh, that's the opinion of all
Sheep.
those people. Sheeple for
Sheep.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sheep, bro.
Well, now
It's
people are
like,
getting even lazier. A1 sauce? Hey, A1 sauce. They're asking A1 for everything.
mhm.
Like it's the new God. It's the new Google. Like, well, A1 said this. Like, well, fuck what A1 said. What do you think? What is your opinion anymore?
Mhm.
People like stopped having their own opinions. Now it's,
Lazy.
yeah, now it's A1 sauce all day.
Yeah.
It's
Lazy.
just like
You're right.
the search has gotten so bad that, like, because I have to use the search a lot for different things at work. And say for instance, um you're looking up a specific brand like Yeti, for instance. You're looking for Yeti because some other jackass paid more money to get themselves to the top of the search. You're getting all these other tumblers that are not Yeti. I asked for fucking Yeti. I didn't ask for this other shit. Give me fucking Yeti. And I get that that's on something that's kind of, benign or whatever. It's not that big of a deal, but that's what showed me how bad the search is. Now, if I'm looking for this one specific thing, that's what should be what comes up. And then you can give me the next, who all these other jackasses paid a bunch of money to get their stuff up there. Yeah, and then put them right after. But give me what I asked for first.
But I like how you even brought up Yeti. So prime example, something that I've noticed in
Mm-hmm.
just marketing in itself. Okay, Yeti starts with the letter Y,
Mm-hmm.
but Stanley starts with S. So I'll just get a Stanley cup too. I'll just get the Stanley cup. You get what I'm saying? Because it comes first in the alphabet too. They'll give you that. If they paid more, they'll be number one, but then they'll give you an alternative that might not even make it to that section. It doesn't even have to be alphabetical. It just has to be in that order. So I'm looking for a Yeti cup or I'm looking for a Yeti cooler, but now I got to stand in my face. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I completely understand what you're saying.
Now, another thing that I want to bring up before we drop
Yep.
off this topic is motherfuckers don't read. Okay, I've been standing on that for 10, 15,000 years. Motherfuckers don't read.
Oh yeah, we also diverged off of the topic. I got to go back to it, so I'll make sure I get out my final points before we move on. Back to Cuba. Trump is going to keep trying this, and this reminds me of what happens in late stages of empires. When you start spreading yourself too thin with every freaking war that you can get yourself into, leave shit alone. Why are you so worried about everybody else? I look at it like this. Cuba's dealt with enough. Why don't you take all these sanctions off and let this country just live and breathe? Leave them the fuck alone. But they don't want to do that because the wealthy want to take it. Like I got so infuriated. Somebody at work, he's from Guatemala. He decided to move here on his own. Perfectly fine, cool. Do what you do. And he's like, I think it'll be good for them for the United States to come in and take over. No, it's not good for somebody else to come and take over. It didn't work out good for any of the countries the United States comes and takes over. You wanted to be like Hawaii, where it's getting to the point where Hawaiians can't even live comfortably in their own country that they've grown up in. I granted we look at it as a state, but it's their country. You want that to just be another playground for the ultra rich, as if they don't have enough. So no, I'm never going to co-sign the United States going and taking anything in any countries. That's the reason why when Venezuela beat the U.S. in the World Baseball Classic, I loved it so much. Granted, it's more of a pure win, but still, let them be able to have that pride for the moment instead of being stomped out by the U.S. in every single way. And it's just watching the US, what they do, it's never enough. It's never enough. They just always got to keep going through. I wasn't even going to bring up that one because I'll go on and on and on if we start talking about Puerto Rico. I'm not going to go there. But yeah, I mean, you don't want to go into like what goes on with the Jones Acts and Promesa and what Bayer has done to the soil there and so many different things. How there's a high cancer rate in particularly young women. It just infuriates me that, and that it's not bad enough what the United States is going and doing in all these other countries around the world. We let punk ass Israel tell us what to do, and it's a lot of people will go from the standpoint that presidents that like the powers that be that run things are just sending him a memo and say do this, do that, and that's not kind of how it works. What they do is they surround you with people who influence your decisions, and they make sure that they'll fund and put enough money and production behind your preferred candidates, which these are the candidates which they support because they already know that they either have blackmail on them or they can manipulate them, or they can just talk them into doing dumb shit like President Trump. And so many of these people that I watch around who are like, I watched somebody the other day who tried to give Trump the benefit of the doubt. One of these generals who I do respect his opinion on military, but he started talking about how, Trump's instincts normally to do. No, Trump has shit instincts. He's a fucking idiot. He's always been a fucking idiot. What it is when he says this ridiculous shit, you guys always give the benefit of the doubt. And I watch it, and I'm not going to try to defend Obama. That's not what I'm trying to do. But I just so happen to notice whenever it's somebody who's a woman or they got a little melanin to themselves, you question every fucking thing that they do. But when they happen to be a fucking white man, y'all just kind of, well, I think more than likely what he means to do good. No, stop that bullshit. I'm tired of always saying white is right. Stop giving people this credit. If you're gonna judge every black person and every woman and every Latino and every brown person and every Arab, and you're gonna be critical of every fucking thing that they say, this energy needs to be kept across the board. I'll have more background on certain topics, more training on certain topics, more experience on certain topics, and I can watch some white boy who comes from Orange County hop out there and just talk shit out of his ass, regurgitating from other people, and people will look at this person as a fucking expert. Those who know who I'm talking about know who I'm talking about. Those who don't, they don't. I'll leave it at that. But sorry, I land my plane there. I'm just tired of seeing fucking people taking certain people and whatever they say, giving it the benefit of the doubt, when I know people like myself always got to fucking prove every fucking thing we say. I'm fine with proving it. Just keep that energy across the board. I'm sorry, y'all. I land my plane.
Well, and that's a good example of we got to punch up, not across, where, like I said, it's always this class thing, the ever-rising middle class, because we're always being suppressed. Middle class is like, people laugh at like what the thought of that anymore, because the gap between the lower class and the higher class is so vast. But it's always been, and a lot of the people at the top are fucking idiots. As history shows, a lot of the kings and queens illiterate, and telling everybody else how to run and rule, and keeps everybody else fighting each other, trying to prove ourselves to these fucking idiots that are like supposedly above us just because of class and bloodlines and incomes and rape and murder and war. I don't think so. But yeah, like even the celebrities were like, oh, this idolism where people think fucking Oprah is how holier than thou, she's so great, but yet they'll fucking piss on like their fellow person, and yeah, fuck you, Oprah, take over Maui and tell your ad, why don't you? But and that's just an example of people just idolizing anything that they say goes. Like, oh, they're so inspirational, but you don't know like the real behind the scenes like evil shit that they're doing, because again, they want to protect their class. I'm not gonna give it away to you.
Yeah, I gotta push back on this real quick. TT says, I don't think it's all about color in America. If you support the empire, wants the best for the empire, you go a long way. Yes and no. I mean, there's some truth to that. A perfect example is look at Trump's administration. You got what, Kash Patel and one other brown face in there. The rest is all white. The rest is all white. I don't like to look at it this way, because I know in other countries it's race is not nearly as much of a factor. But in America it is. And it may not be for the average person. We may not care as much person to person level, but for the people who run this country, it does make a difference. And if you do support the empire and you're of different colors, yes, you can be used as a token, but they only need so many tokens. And so after they filled their quota on tokens, the rest of you guys can go pound sand. That's how it really is. They're going to get enough women to go along with misogynist things. They'll get enough black people to besmirch other black people. They'll get lesbians and trans to talk shit on lesbians and trans. They're going to get their tokens. But this is all still meant for a certain power base. They say Carl Zah made an amazing point that George Bush Jr. And Obama could not be pushed by the 48ers to attack Iran, but somehow they successfully pushed Trump to invade Iran. How does that work? I'm glad you brought this up, because somebody made this point. Oh, if it would have been Kamala, we would have done it. No, we wouldn't have. Anybody with any fucking common sense knows that what this would lead to. Anybody with common sense knows what this would lead to. And they know it would completely destroy their presidency. Completely. This would destroy economies. Anybody with common sense knows that. And too many people are putting it on Trump as if, well, he's trying to negotiate this, and no, Trump doesn't have any common sense. They're like, Trump tries to play crazy and scare people without crazy and everybody else. No, Trump is crazy. He is just plain point. He is. He's crazy. He's a crazy fucking person, a stupid crazy person with way too much power. And as long as you are stupid and crazy with power, you are dangerous. He's a person who's not used to hearing the word no, and he's going to keep doing. He's going to keep. He only knows one way to operate: more force behind more force behind more force. And when you haven't been punched, you haven't been kicked in the teeth yet, and had to fucking lose, people like that will go and drag everybody down with them because they've never experienced, oh shit, this isn't going to go my way, or I'm not going to have an out. So he's going to keep going until he has to experience that out. It has to be where, and I think he's going to run us to a point where, the metaphorically, the pitchforks will be out for him in a way that he's never experienced before. I mean, the dude just came out with 48 hours. I'm going to attack all of their. I'm going to attack their energy. I'm going to attack their desalination plants. You're going to go after their energy, what the lifeblood of their economy, and you're going to go after their water. Now, they're not like a lot of these other countries within the region. They're going to be fine on the water. I mean, it's gonna pinch. It's gonna hurt a little, but it's not going to be kill them off. Once you destroy their economy, they're going to hit back harder, and they're going to hit that whole entire region. And I don't think he understands. I don't think he truly comprehends the danger that he's putting so many people in. That's the reason why I'm like, people try to give him this. He's trying to out crazy him and bluff him. No, the fucker doesn't understand what the fuck's going on. He's not bright enough. He just knows somebody's telling him no, and he's gonna push back. And he can't look soft, so he got to just keep going. And he's not gonna learn until he feels pain. And I'm watching the American media always go after these Iranian, these people who are speaking on behalf of Iran, and they're like, "Are they ready to come to the table yet?" And this and that. I'm like, what you don't get is when a person who's had enough has to say, you know what, hey, I'm on my back foot, my back is against the wall, they're not going to fucking just give up and bow down at this point. They feel this is existential. They know how easy it is for Israel to manipulate Trump, and it's only a matter of time for, if they don't fight back now, it puts them at, a end point. And so all they have to do is get us to the point where Americans are pissed. And once those gas prices start going high enough and you start seeing some of these shelves start emptying, Americans they're thin skinned. They can't handle a lot of pain. They can't handle a lot of these gas prices going up and businesses closing. People are going to lose their shit. And that will be enough to put ample pressure on Trump. Now, if he tries to stop it, I wouldn't be surprised if Israel tries to go further. Iran has just launched massive strikes on Dimona, on their nuclear plants. So this thing is, I think it's only ratcheting it up. And even if they stopped right now, it's still going to be massive consequences down the road that we will feel. So I'm sorry, I ran on a lot. Y'all can take it.
As you should. That was a good rant. Yeah, Trump. I remember seeing Trump as a little kid on TV and just like kind of like he gave me the eeks, right? And when I got wind that he was running for president, I was like, oh fuck, he's totally gonna win. When I heard that he was gonna come back around, I like, even during the Biden administration, you saw kind of what was going on. They made like a mockery of everything only to bring it back to Trump. So he would have to terms. If you see the mega hats, it says the numbers, right? 2000. God, I already like can't think of like dates. So it's 2004 and 2016 and 2024, right? Those were the dates that he was elected. When you add those numbers up in numerology, 9/11. So on these mega hats, which means magic, the magi, the druids, it says 9/11 straight on it. Like my cousin wears a mega hat, right? And a lot of farmers, they wanted Trump because we had the Biden administration completely fucking 180 from like the administration, where they're like, people are just like, could not handle the absurdity, all the gender bending, all this rainbow, like with a robot, a literal robot walking out as our president, where people are like, we have to take our country back. And so Trump was like their only they said it's like their only way out. And maybe in a weird way it was definitely destined. It was definitely destined. But he's a businessman. He's a businessman, not a political man. I don't think really any of these politicians really know what politics really are. They're in the business of money and money laundering and making all these policies and making wars based off of that. It's insanity, and it's been going on for a very, very long time.
Well, but technically, he's in the same business of money laundering too. Because if you really dig, yeah, but he's a failed businessman. Like if you really go into Trump's background, he's bankrupted most of his businesses, and he's only been able to survive as a businessman by laundering money from every part of the world. And I guarantee you, he has money that has come from the Saudis illegally. He has money from the Russians. Everybody under the sun.
He's been shaking hands and rubbing elbows for decades.
And so he's only been able to really survive off of using his name for licensing. And so all of his businesses are, and then not to mention how much fraud that dude has just gotten away with. In fact, how he even became on the main scene in the first place is from fraud. So
he's a swine.
Literally been nothing but
looks like Scottish Rite to me. Yeah. And deriving the Republicans, like the Democratic Republican Party, there was a one party system in this country until 1825, and they split it. It was one party, the Democratic.
Well, yeah, you had the Democratic Republicans, and then you had the Whigs, and then you had a couple of other ones. Yeah. And then those started to die off, and then the split.
They ended up splitting it, and so really, it's two of the same party. The liberals and like the Whigs, they kind of all emerged, but it's the same party. And he saw his opportunity here, and I think like any president, they become a huge puppet. I feel he's no longer as much in charge of his own empires and destiny and dynasty as he once was. Now he's in the political matrix, and he's a puppet. And I think he's fucking scared. He's got some balls where he's like, let's do this. But I think he's scared where if he doesn't like take all these deals, and if he doesn't play ball with some of these even more ancient bloodlines, he's gonna like the assassination will like hit next time. I don't know. Like, so he's just like every other president. Like, yeah, he's this big wigger, but they got him. They captured him because of the families that are above everybody else. They got him, and so now he's just another puppet. And people are obsessed with this man. I have never seen it. Like, people are so blind to see how terrible like the Biden administration was, or any other, that they're obsessed with Trump. Either they love him or they hate him, and they can't wait to see what he does next. Right? It's like, it's a sickness. It's interesting.
Can I respond to this? Oh, no, you're perfectly fine. This is something I saw back. Let me go back to the other one before that. Because you said something that, okay, here we go. Israel was also a Rothschild's project. They take orders from the Rothschild. Well, not only that they take orders, they're one and the same. I mean, when people say take orders, it's as if the Rothschilds weren't telling them to do this, they would be doing something different. No, it's the same thing when I hear people say, "Oh, well, you know, Chuck Schumer is all bought out." No, he's on board with all this. He agrees with all this. This isn't. Yes, they plenty of these politicians take the money, but they would be doing it even for free. And I think when people put it on the money, they make it as if like you're taking off the accountability of these people that this is what they believe in. When you look at like some of these reporters and like, why is a Rachel Maddow trying to avoid putting blame on Israel? Why? Look into her background. Start looking into it. Uh, Rachel Maddow is Jewish. I'm just gonna start calling it plain out. You know, that's why she's doing this. This is an emotional attachment she has to the nation of Israel. When you wonder why Margaret Brennan would act this, why has she got these weird ass questions the way she has it? Her husband is Jewish. I mean, it's sometimes just look, it's not that hard to figure out why these people lean this way. Kristen Welker, which I always thought she was like Indian or something. Kristen Welker, her father's Jewish. I mean, it's just that simple. And you start looking throughout the media, and I'll probably get canceled for this. I don't really give a damn. But more of these people tied to it because that's my family over there. That's so they don't give a damn about, they threw all the objectiveness out of the way. It's about that's my tribe. And it goes back to tribalism that fast. It's the same thing as, oh, we'll all be Americans or whatever. But let's say your Nigerian friend, Team Nigeria is playing against US. Who do you think that they're rooting for? I mean, and that's how it is. People are tribal. And when you find out where a person's tribal leanings are, you'll understand why they do the things that they do. And if it was anybody else, it would make perfect sense. Now, granted, some of the immigrants which come into this country, they're like, hey, my country's over there. I'm with the US. I'm rocking with them 100% on everything. Fuck my country over there. I've heard plenty of Indians kind of be like, yo, I'm about America. I don't give a damn what India got going on. I've seen plenty of immigrants do that because a lot of times, in order for you to decide you're going to up and leave your country and go to another country, sometimes it's because you have an affinity for this other place and you disdain your own place. Now, whether that's a self-hatred thing, some of that's to part, some of that does take place. I definitely think that's the case with a Vivek. I definitely think that's the case with Nikki Haley. I think that's the case with a lot of these politicians where they do have a disdain, a self-hatred. I noticed that with some of these Latinos for Trump who specifically are for Trump because of immigration. Many of them see themselves as white, point blank period. And out here we literally had a couple of Latino officials literally say, "Oh, they're with those dirty Oaxacans," literally shitting on other Mexicans. And so some of them do not see themselves as attached to their own people. And so it does come into a form of self-hatred. And if you go into the Dutch East Indian Trading Company, which I mentioned, you can even go further back to the Greeks when they went into India, how the caste system and stuff got built up. That caste system, that mentality got pushed into a lot of other places. You have that throughout Latin America with the colorism issue. That goes back to the interview I had with Sweta Aragal, where her thing was called the Black Rose, and it went into the skin whitening that Indians and people in Africa and all that were doing because of their own self-hatred of their own skin tone. And so as much as people try to disconnect those things, that does play into some of these people's motives. I'm not saying all, but it does play enough of a role that it should definitely be mentioned, talked about. Till, where you at? I'm dying to hear your take.
Well, I'm West Indian. That whole bleaching skin, whitening skin thing is like a epidemic.
Yeah,
in
it's
that
bad.
section of the world right now.
Hmm.
And that whole that really does come from colonial religion rhetoric, white is right, white is snow, all that good shit.
Hmm.
Understanding that was a thing that was definitely like beat into, no pun intended, beat into the slaves of understanding like white is right. That's why you're in the position or you're in the predicament that you're in.
Hmm.
So yeah, I ain't never, what I'm saying, it sucks because even now, I hear when Mariah was like, racism, it's not really racism. It isn't. It's classism, and then within the classes, it's colorism. So I won't even, what I'm saying, it's not racist. It's kind of like we are, and I think it's always funny that you bring up India, Marcus, because in a sense, the United States has picked up their caste system without saying that we've picked up their caste system.
Hmm.
And even though they have a couple of different levels before you get to the untouchables, it really just feels like we have the elite and the untouchables.
Hmm.
And they're just allowing us to kind of like, handle ourselves in a sense. They're allowing us to just kill ourselves. And now with everything that's going on with Iran, it's really about to get nasty because like what, gas is $5 a fucking gallon right now. Shit's insane. And that's just the East Coast. I know it's probably fucking outrageous on the West Coast. I remember when I lived in Vegas, I drove to LA with my brother, and there was a gas station in the middle of nowhere on that connecting interstate where uh Kokomoko or whatever the fuck I have a song about it, but anyway, right on the outskirts of the Marine Corps base going back towards Vegas, they had a gas station that has like aliens on the outside of it or whatever, but like gas was like $8. Like
I know
what the
that gas station.
you know
Because
what
you're
gas
so
station I'm
far
talking about?
out.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You're in the
yeah.
middle of nowhere. It's a
It's
monopoly. So you gotta pay what you gotta pay if you're fucking stuck. Like Chuck, you know what I'm saying? But like even getting into LA, gas was fucking expensive around my birthday and like ain't shit popping off around December, bro. But like I was out in LA around my birthday and I could look out the window and I was like, what the fuck? Gas is how much here? And fucking insane. And those are the things that are going to create the differences between livelihoods in these caste systems that they're creating underneath our noses. It's like, do you have the funds to escape? And even on that aspect, I remember telling my brother years ago, like, hey, I'm trying to fucking leave this country before shit gets wicked. And now I've already passed my expiration date of leaving, and I'm kind of mad because I should have packed up and left, got the fuck on. But like, here it is now. Now we're going to be in a fucking spiral of, do you even have the funds to leave? Because now they've made it a mission where, flights to other places is expensive. Putting gas in a U-Haul to travel across country is expensive. Packing your shit up and utilizing the same ships that are being tariffed. You know what I'm saying? Like, god damn, they've made it so that you're stuck. They've
Yeah.
created the invisible fences for you.
Oh yeah, and right on time. Like the gas prices spurge right before summer when people actually want to take vacations. Right, like usually the second year of a presidential term when people get comfortable. Like it's like right on time because like when like stuff like groceries, gas prices, this side of like live, like just regular shit for us to get by. That's when people start going against their establishment, but also like wanting help and change, right? So like, please help us, right? And then it also brings up where then you get more hostile to like, yeah, fuck it, war is cool, fuck it, racism is cool. People start turning on each other more when they like can't afford their basic needs. And that's done on purpose. It's done on purpose. It's right on time. It's all for and the whole thing with the gas prices. Are, are you kidding me? Like these wars, we're not even getting that much oil from these countries. We have so much oil in Alaska, North Dakota, and in this country. They just don't want to like pay for the actual labor here because people get paid really well to drill oil in this country, and it's a lot of times shale type of drilling. So these oil wars is bullshit. It's such bullshit. And even using the word fossil fuel it's propaganda because like it's limited. It's only from the one era of dead dinosaurs. Everything that dies becomes a black goo that sips down into the earth. And so this oil is constantly being like renewed. And the fact that the fact that the prices fluctuate so much too, like we have a lot of it. The electric cars is a scam. The idea is good, but these things like blow up, and then everybody's in line at these electrical like chargers, right? I live in rural Colorado. There aren't any electrical chargers, right? So there's this is propaganda even about that, about what the wars are about. It's not yeah, they'll take their resources, but not about the resources like to begin with, because we don't need what they say that we're after. You know, like it's just barbaric to be like, oh, we need their women and their oil, so we're gonna go bomb them. It's bullshit. It's bullshit, and it's all part of these proxy wars. Keep everybody in human flow. They love their new technology. They love their weapons, and they want to use them. Why would you not?
Yeah, I
boys
mean,
play with toys.
I think that the whole oil thing, the reason why they worry about these countries' oil, whether that be Venezuela, Iraq, Iran, it's more about a control thing than anything. Well, control for the US and stuff like that. But I honestly believe the major motivation for what's going on is the reason why they're worried about these Middle Eastern wars. This all has to do with Israel. This is all about the Greater Israel Project. It always has been, and it's about making Israel a superpower in that region. This is what their goal is. Now, others, you guys can disagree or agree, but that's what I honestly believe. I believe that it's about control. If they can get control and they can, get control of that region, then eventually they'll be able to exert more control over the rest of the global population. And by taking care of the oil, whether it's there, whether it's Venezuela, whatever, once you can control the oil, since everybody decides that they want to be on a petroleum, base, that's what we're going to be subjected to. I'm more in the mindset of, hey, whatever solutions you can come up with at work, use them. If you want to go towards solar, if you want to go towards whatever, use it. If you want to go towards corn fuel, or ethanol, I mean, you want to whatever different things that work. If you found a way to do some kind of water-based solutions, I'm with it all. Because I think that it helps decentralize power and control, and that's what's more important to me. That things don't continue to go in the route of monopolies and ultimate control for handfuls of people. That's where things get dangerous. Um, says
Well, and totally. And with the thing with oil too. So like, never believe like it's there's a limit to the resource. Everything that big pharma is about is petroleum medicine. Everything that big pharma, big oil is about is wrapping everything in plastic. Do you know how many things are wrapped in plastic, wrapped in plastic, wrapped in plastic, wrapped? There is no limit to oil. That's a lie, because everything petroleum makes plastic. So the idea that is limited, like everything is wrapped in plastic, wrapped in plastic, wrapped in plastic, and that is actually a real threat to the environment. Is everything made out of plastic? It doesn't decompose. It just like makes smaller pieces. It's in our body. It's in the ocean. It's in the water. It's in the soil. It's in the food, the air. It's everywhere. So we have this oil film in everything. Even in North Dakota, when I go home, like the sky is full of just like petroleum in the air now. So big pharma, which is like the Rothschilds and everything, has taken over everything. The wars, all these things is about like this idea of war around oil, and oil is all the plastic. So it's a plastic war. It's kind of like my point. And there's no limit to it. Like everything is made out of petroleum, and it's in everything. And if anything, we need to dilute it. It's kind of like the most like environmental disaster that we are facing when they're like are having us focus on other things. It's kind of a ironic situation.
Well, I just find it kind of oxymoronic with the fact that like y'all were pressed about these electric cars, electric this, electric that, but now we're fighting over oil. Winky dink.
Well, it's the West.
Exactly.
It's more the West cares so much about oil. Like if you look at China and their their electrics are 10 times better than what's in the US.
Mhm.
That's the reason why
Ah,
they don't want them coming in our country.
Yeah, they've been using them for a long time. And the ones here, like, they kind of blew up. And there's not enough like energy stations, like where like think about like the truckers, all the UPS, all these things on the road still. Like it doesn't even make sense. And a lot of those electric charging stations are based off of petroleum and coal-based power.
Yeah, I was since we were talking about some of that oil and stuff like that, I wanted to throw this in there, which I don't know how many people know this. I feel like if they don't know this, everybody should know this. Talking about the oil companies, do you guys know who Shell is owned by?
Peter Thiel.
No.
Rothschilds, Trump,
It's
the
owned by
London Dutch company.
yes, it is literally owned by Denmark.
The Dutch.
Yes, the Dutch. So the same people who own the Dutch East Indian Company, they're the ones who own that oil.
And all those potato chips you've been eating. Dutch potato chips.
So they're still impacting things in a massive way, which many people just don't connect it at all. What's another one? The big investment company, ING.
Mm-hmm.
ING is Dutch also. And so they're big in investments and things like that also. So because I remember somebody asked me not that long ago about the different families who have power, and I laid out a bunch of them a couple of years back. But as you go back into like, I'm probably gonna pick a show and just kind of go through and at least bring up and do a little bit more information on different ones. I know I've talked about the DuPonts. I've talked about definitely, of course, talked about Rothschilds ad nauseum. Talked about the Rockefellers. What's a couple of other ones? I've talked about the Astors. I've even talked about the Lee family, the tied into the Lee dynasty, which owns a lot of the banking throughout Asia. What's another one? The Onassis, how the Onassis tie into shipping and
Jackie
stuff
O.
like that through Greek. Yeah, she was married to why come I can't remember his first name.
Jackie O was married to JFK.
Yeah, but before him, she was married, or either before or after him, she was married to an Onassis. That's where she got that last name. What was
I
his
thought that was
name?
her maiden name. That ain't her mama?
No. That was let me see. What was his name? I remember looking him up years ago. He's an older man.
Aristotle.
That's his name. Aristotle Onassis. Yeah.
His name's Aristotle, like the philosopher. That's badass.
Yeah, look into him. Yeah, that's right. I've mentioned the Bundy family also, which Bush family is tied into Bundy's. But
that's why we have the Bundys, right? On Married with Children. That's why they have that name.
Yes, Kate, she married after JFK. But yeah, she was with Aristotle. That's how she got the Onassis name. And look into him and his family ties and their shipping and stuff like that. It's a big deal. Also, another one we don't talk about as much is the Medicis. The Medicis and their tie and how it goes down, and the House of Windsor, and it's many families who are involved in this, and there's some of the newer families who are involved also, which have massive power.
I want to also like the McDonald family. I've talked about my grandma being born in China with a Canadian Scottish. He's Sir John Alexander MacDonald was the first prime minister of Canada, and he was a Scottish Canadian tied to my grandmother. And then we have McDonald's, the food chain. There's something very, very profound about the correlation there. But the first prime minister, yeah, Scottish Canadian. So Canada, though ruled by the crown, the Scottish Rite were very, very influential in this on this continent, this country, and Canada, and all the other ones, just as well. I feel like Trump, he looks like a Scottish Rite, straight up. Or
Oh, just a little info on Aristotle Onassis, business magnate. He amassed the world's largest privately owned shipping fleet and was one of the world's richest and most famous men.
a fleet out of which country?
And not only was his name Aristotle, it was Aristotle Socrates Onassis.
How are you granted that name? That's wow.
And he was a stockbroker, and his
How do you not
nickname
have
was
an
Wall
ego
Street
with
Black.
that type of name?
Mm-hmm.
Wall Street Jack was his nickname.
Woo! Yeah. Oh, like the Wolf of Wall Street. Totally. Oh, we're getting somewhere. That's amazing.
Yeah, Jackie, none of these families completely die out. Their name just gets changed and moved. Mm-hmm. The Borgias, the Merovingians, they never went away either.
Yeah, Katy Perry also with Trudeau. Like, come on.
Like another thing I failed to mention when I talked about the House of Orange. The House of Orange tied to a more famous name that you guys are more familiar with, possibly Nassau. Yes. So when you talk about Nassau County, Nassau, Bahamas, and other things, and when you start looking at Nassau,
private tiers, the piracy,
you'll see more ties with more people as you start going into these different names, how they tie together, and you'll see how some of these houses, like a lot of the English royal family, they tie back to powerful German families.
Well, in the Germany, that's part of my heritage as well. The Myers,
mm-hmm.
With the name getting changed. So the Germans too, like so, Mount Herman, German, the germs as well. When you look into like symbolism with even the movie Beetlejuice. I started looking into this correlation with the Jews and this movie. Me and Shelly, Mystic Mamas, did that. And what you start seeing is there's a lot of propaganda during World War II against the Jews and or Germans. And even after World War II, you see like the beetle, the love bug. A lot of these soda companies, Coca-Cola, Fanta, they're tied in with the Nazis, but also German. And then, but there's something with the word German because it's tied to Mount Herman, where supposedly the fallen angels came down and mated with the earthling women and committed their own like sin and divided themselves from God. And so Herman, German, that name is associated with that sort of like instant sin. Not saying anything against Germans by any way. I'm German, but like that German Herman, that word, you see it a lot coming up. And there was a lot of propaganda either against Jews or against Germans specifically. They weren't the same. And when you watch the movie Inglourious Bastards, it's a very good movie, very good movie. But this is Mandela effect already. Like one of the lines already changed, or maybe that was Hollywood doing it, where he said, go show this Nazi, like go oblige him, like basically go kill this Nazi. And then later they changed the line to go show this German, go oblige this German. So they changed the line in the movie from Nazi to German because they weren't one and the same, and there's like they're taboo to both of them. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that? But yeah, German Mount Hermon, and there's also Mount Moriah. By the way.
Well, Mariah, I believe, goes back to biblical. So yeah, a lot of those early Bible thumpers went around naming, like like for instance, like Moab in Utah is named from Moab of the
I live
Bible.
next to Moab. It's right over
Hmm.
there.
Yeah, Moab goes to the Moabite people and the Moabite stone, and it goes into a lot of history when once you start digging into that part of the Bible, because people started to question if the Moabite people were actually a real thing until they found the Moabite stone. And for those who don't know what the Moabite stone is, it's almost like an early aged Rosetta Stone, where it had multiple different language, it had multiple different languages, same thing, but saying it in those different languages. And that's why they were able to say, okay, well, these was the actual people. There's a language here. And then eventually they started to find the territory, which they attributed to the Moabite society. Society, yeah. But what was it I was gonna say? I was gonna say something that I went way off track and forgot. But yeah, as you start looking into these families, you'll start to see more and more correlations and ties. Um, and
No, the Moabite. Thank you for reminding me about that. I need to get, like, Moab is 70 miles away from me west. I'm right in the southwest, like the Four Corners. And one thing that I've noticed about like petroglyphs, I started falling in love with petroglyphs. There's a lot of Anasazi ruins in this area. We could tell that the natives they were migrating. The Hopi might have a very famous migration, but even after that, where the natives were migrating, and they were these cave dwellers, and they would make awesome dwellings to live in these caves. We could tell they weren't there for too long, and they were hiding from something. Like they had pulleys and ladders to go down into the cave, down into the canyons, and then like make living quarters. So we've been talking so much about the North American history. It goes when all these natives were emerging from the underworld, like it's insane, the petroglyphs and some of the stuff that you can actually see, because they're trying to tell us a story. And Moab, the Southwest, like all of it. I've seen the same petroglyphs here as the same on the island of Maui. The same petroglyphs. They're all seeing something maybe in the sky. And this is a transition of like the old world to whatever was happening when people were emerging and rediscovering this continent. They were on the move. They were being hunted. There was stuff going in the sky. And if anybody ever wants to travel here, like some of the best human history, I guess like archives are in these cave like drawings. Like and it's universal on this continent. When you go to different places, you see the same petroglyphs. So I don't know if anybody else has seen like any sort of like mounds, petroglyphs, like or
Be
some sort of
safe, man. Hold
sign
on,
from
Mariah. Hold
ancient
on,
human
Mariah.
history. Yeah, go ahead.
Hold on. Buy bad cookies. Be safe on these streets and the highways and byways. I hope they're celebrating a great solar return. Peace out.
yeah, I thank you for joining us here. Much appreciation, back cookies, and hey, hopefully it is. Hopefully you have a great time.
Happy equinox, Teal. It was good chatting with you today on the podcast. Can't wait to see you again.
Oh, that's what I was gonna say. I remember I think somebody had brought up about oh, you brought up the Germans and Jewish and different. Yeah, there was definitely a difference because they actually moved into that, they migrated to that area. Initially before that they were in Russia, before that they were in what's modern day Ukraine. Plenty of them are still were still in those areas and were spread across those areas. Um there's a little dispute on where they were right before that, but I was able to see definite evidence that many of the modern Jewish population, or at least the Ashkenazim or Ashkenazi population, actually came from a group of Jewish people who came out of the Roman Empire. I was able to track that to even a certain particular family, and that's where they claimed. Well, many of them who crossed over to that part of Ukraine and that area, and then eventually spread into Russia, Germany, Poland, Hungary, all of those different areas.
All right, well, and again, bringing it back to when all these immigrants, all these new, the new world of North America, right? All these immigrants coming over from everywhere. It was a melting pot, and I feel a lot of the immigrants were from these wars too, like depending on like which era. So you had like a lot of the Irish coming over, all of a sudden, a lot of the English coming over, the Scottish coming over. And because like their homeland all of a sudden was like in fucking ruins. Like there's this human flow. And so people instantly when they came here, and I mean, and depending on what year they came here, one good example of a movie is like was it in New York, Gangs in New York, the 5 points, right? Where everybody during that area coming over, especially if you're Irish, you're not the ideal candidate, but you could join the military right away. You could like welcome, join the military, here you go. And a lot of people assume like this is like the like one of the only gateways of coming to America, right? We had American Tail, another Disney movie, animation with the mice, right? There are no cats in America, and the streets are lined with cheese, selling everybody this idea that there's freedom in this new world. And so some people did come over on a boat, but some people did not have that opportunity to like have a choice. But I've listened to a lot of elders and the most random shit that they've ever said. One lady said that she arrived, she said she was Irish, that she was taken from her family and that she arrived here in the Serpent Mound. The Serpent Mound, if everybody knows that, that's in Ohio, right? It's a huge, like, snake mound that you can kind of only depict from the sky. There's some gateways, there's some passageways, there's some underground, definitely like human trafficking going on in this continent for a long time. And I think that the natives too, when they arrived here, they emerged from the ground. So we are fighting over and like melting into this continent, not knowing where we came from. It's quite interesting. I love it. Like everything really starts to like connect, but it's really about all these elite bloodlines kind of just taking over the world and making it their own new history.
Okay. I think let's see, as we've been doing this this weave in a sense, Trump style weave. Did you guys see anything? What's your thoughts on the resignation of Joe Kent? That's who I'd like to bring up at this moment.
Hey,
yeah,
I hope Joe Kent got the spirit of Chuck Norris because he's gonna be have to whoop some ass until he die.
Yeah, I think he
you know what I'm saying?
It could be interesting for him.
I'm just saying, like he's gonna really have to like watch his shit because like I ain't never. I don't
figure
know.
I'll put him on the screen
never,
while we talk about him.
Please do. I ain't never had a job where I quit and they were watching me after the fact.
Mm-hmm.
Like on my Facebook views and shit. Like you got a whole case out for you, bro. You say one thing about Charlie, and now they're like, nah, bro, don't talk about Charlie Kirk no more. And he's like, why?
Oh well, go into it. Go into because I don't know if people know about this. For those who don't know, Joe Kent was is the highest official who has resigned from the Trump administration. He was over the counterterrorism program, and this is a former veteran who served 11 tours. Not only did he serve, but his wife was a veteran also. I say was because his wife was a KIA, killed in action. For those who don't know, so this was a dual military family, and he made a promise to his wife that he wouldn't get any service members tied up in a useless war again. And he said that was one of his motivations for retiring, and he felt that Israel pushed Donald Trump into this. He said there were plenty of people who were in the room who were arguing against this path, and a lot of those people were isolated away from Trump, so he could never hear their perspectives. And he was saying that he still has hope, that he felt like because Trump pays so much attention to media and he's influenced by what the media says, that that is reason part of why he decided to resign, because he felt that some work can still be done from the inside, and he believes some people are still inside for those reasons. But he believed that at this point, because of the promise he made to himself and his wife, that he would get out and try to reach out to Trump through the media and other means. So that's a little background, but there I yield the floor back.
So yeah, so pretty much he was popping his shit about Charlie because he was like, something don't seem right. And then next thing you know, he got a case on him. And the only time I've ever heard some shit like that happen is when they trying to 86 you, like that spec off the menu. So to go to work and say, hey y'all, here's my 2-week notice. And they're immediately like, yeah, fuck that 2-week notice. We finna follow you for the rest of your life. Like, that's crazy.
Well, I mean, I think the main reason behind that is, they're trying to put fear into this man and try to back him down. And I think that, I mean, me and Till talked about this the other day. It's a possibility that they might, he might end up getting Charlie Kirk, and more than likely from a distance, or they get somebody close to him. Yeah, get somebody close to him to do it while his guard is down. I think you come at this man while his guard is up, and it's going to be a lot of body bags leaving out that aren't him. So I think it. Well, it all depends on if he stays at the course he's kind of speaking right now. He's kind of tepid. I think that there's a possibility that as things escalate and he realizes that his attempts are futile and Trump is not going to acquiesce to anything that he says, eventually things are just going to devolve and get worse. And then he'll start speaking a lot more freely. Because I understand how military people tend to be, especially when you're still kind of in that mindset. You're still very reserved at criticism towards the chain of command or leadership, even when you disagree with them. You're still trying to always parse your words. And I think he's still at that phase right now because he's still that gun-ho type. But as he starts to get out of that and maybe deprogram just a little bit more, I think he's going to get a little bit more loose with his words. And I think that at that point, that's when he's going to be in actual real danger.
Well, isn't it crazy that that's how it goes anymore? Like, us three, we're talking on podcasts. We're talking about stuff we probably shouldn't. That's why I've always wanted to keep it like DL. You shouldn't, if you have real shit to say, you shouldn't want to say it for publicity. But the more that anybody fights back, they're trying to make it very clear that no, we're not going to do that. If you want to fight back and be outspoken against us, even if like maybe you, they're making examples of people again. Like we're going back to holy wars, and we're going back. The astrology shows it. Like we're going back to some like wartime tactics where a lot of people living right now have not experienced. And so we're not ready, and we're not ready to like what could come. It's a different type of war that's coming though too, because of the technology, the propaganda, the social media. The war is happening in different ways. Even though we have bombs, people on the ground a little bit more, right? Like but there's this like constant need to keep people at war, and if you do speak against it, they will make example. Even during Nazi German war, I've read several books where I can't remember the name of the book. It was amazing though. One guy was a pastor, he was a theologian, and the whole book was about him trying to survive Nazi Germany while being a theologian, and he ended up getting put in war camp, prison, and being murdered because he just was questioning what was going on, and he was high rank. So the higher rank you are, and the more you question, the more higher risk you are. And that's why people stay humble, and that's how they like it. Stay sheep, y'all.
I need to. I feel like I just want to recognize we've had some interesting trolls in the chat today. I don't know, very interesting.
Oh damn, I ain't been paying attention to the chat.
Yeah, I saw
Trolls!
one earlier. I didn't even pay them any attention, but I just saw one in there talking about open borders. I'm like, who the fuck is talking about open borders? What are you talking about? I don't know. It's just some interesting people. People need to like put the pipe down for a while. It's not Jewish. Huh? Okay, I get. Okay, I was reading something that TTW SUF was saying, but I get what they're saying now. I don't know. I just at this point, like, I don't argue with like trolls. Like, if you're gonna troll, really, I just kind of read in like interesting because I don't know what I can never understand the mentality of a troll. That's why it's like if I'm watching something I don't like watching, I turn the channel. I don't invest in like paying attention to something I dislike or disagree with. But oh yeah. On Joe Kent though, I think that it is very interesting that he was talking about in the whole Charlie Kirk thing. He said one of the last things Charlie Kirk told him is to stop them from going to war with Iran. Now, at the time when Charlie Kirk was, I'm trying to like remember off the top of my head roughly that time period, but like I don't think we were at the point of going to war with Iran yet. I mean, I'm trying to think. Well, maybe that was around the point of the 12-day war, maybe. But I'm like, I'm having a hard time trying to figure that timeline. Like, what did Charlie Kirk know behind the scenes? I don't know. I'm trying to. I don't know. In the chat, if you guys can help us, help me with that timeline. When was Charlie Kirk taken out, and when was the 12-day war with Iran? Because if he was talking about the 12-day war, okay, then that makes some sense. I don't know. Do you know Voodoo?
Nah, not for real.
I'm like, I'm trying
I
to
just
blank.
remember before he died, he was like, please don't get into it with Iran. And then that's when he was also like really anti apple juice and Welch's, you know.
I'm
Fuck that
And then
apple
he got
juice.
clapped up. Then he got clapped up by the the supervisors of Welch's grape factory.
The Welsh.
Yeah, Welch's grape factory.
And
Because
that's the Welsh clan. I've been part of the Welsh past lives. It all kind of
Mariah,
adds up.
that's my code word for them
certain
them
people.
people over there. Them people over there.
Well, think about like, okay, so Iraq, that when they started bombing that, I was randomly Puerto Rico, spring break, my first spring break, it's 2003. And since then, like I knew that like this like NATO like type of takeover, they had this idea of many of the Middle Eastern countries. And so all of a sudden, like Iraq, I'm like, we haven't taken that one over yet. Like I already thought it had happened already because I already knew what the plan was. Like the start of like us bombing Iraq. with George W. fucking Jr. You know, this has been ongoing and a plan for like a long time. Taking
You know, I just did a little research. Oh no, TTW US. I wasn't saying you were the troll. No, it was somebody else. I wasn't calling you a troll. No, it was somebody else completely.
Mistrolled ya.
Yeah. Yeah, we weren't talking about you. Because a lot of those trolls, they just drop something, and then if nobody responds to it, then they just dip back out. But no, not somebody. If somebody is engaged and they're here for multiple shows, I can tell that that's a real person who's actually enjoying the content and engaging with the content, and that's different. A troll just says some throwaway stuff and then runs. But I just looked up the dates. It looked like the 12-day war happened June of 2024. I mean 2025. Charlie Kirk was kirked in September. So it had been over. The 12-day war had ended. Why was he so concerned with us going to war with Iran? It almost seems like he knew that there was a major push for this to happen. And so that would be easily what was it now? March? What is that? I think we were hearing about I want to say, thinking back on it, I think there was talks and a push on that everybody expected that was going to happen around the first of the year. So I guess maybe that could be why. But I don't know. It just seems kind of odd to me.
Well, the astrology plays a big part in the energy that goes on this planet, but also these globalists, they pay attention to it. Throughout time, they've always had like their wizards or their priests, their magical magi by their side to tell them when to start war or not to, like looking at the stars and using that the magi. So I really so Aries is ruled by Mars, which is the planet of war. And we just entered Aries. Yep, we just entered Aries. And about a few weeks ago, Neptune and Saturn also entered Aries, conjunct at 0 degrees. I'm sorry, 0 degrees. It was a big conjunction, and it just kind of threw us in this like new era of war. Saturn does not necessarily like to be in Aries either, because it goes beyond the horizon. Aries is the first house of the astrological zodiac, and so it actually dips down the horizon before it comes up and around again. So right now is the equinox, but it's also the very beginning of the zodiac new year. But with all this Aries energy, they're taking advantage of it. So it's like the energy almost happens automatically, but like the ones that like pay attention, they're using it to their advantage. This is wartime. The last time Neptune was in Aries, it was a holy war. It takes a really long time to make that orbit around back to the same place. It's a slow moving planet. It's one of the outer ones. And so we are seeing, and that's why I bring up these books. They don't talk about astrology as much, like the generations for turning, is because they do pay, the writers paid attention. It's 420 where I'm at. Holla. They pay attention to astrology, but also astrology, the energy happens anyway. So if you're tapping into it, they're using it to their advantage. And with this fourth turning, we are in the fourth turning where the boomers are going to see their grandchildren have to go to war. A draft is very possible, because also the fourth turning, that's also has to do with the feminine and masculine energy. With hard times, you create strong men. The masculine energy overall, and I'm not talking about just the men, but overall collective has been very weakened.
Hold on 1 second.
Yeah, go ahead.
Jackie, thank you as always.
Thanks,
for joining us,
Jackie.
and have a good night.
We love it when you come by.
Yes, we do. We love Jackie. But yeah, carry on.
Jackie, oh. But yeah, do you know what I'm saying? So there's this return of this energy, and we're experiencing it right now. Jupiter and Uranus, they conjunct a year and a half ago. No, almost 2 years ago now. And me, Nova, and Matthew on Poppy's Field Project, we were like, this is the start of new technology, new war, new currency, where everything like switches, and it's kind of always like a turn point. So we're right in it, you guys. It's an exciting time and a terrifying time because war is on the horizon and it's happening. Like when people say, is this about to be World War III? We've been in World War III. It's happening. It's here. It's on. And so with these energies, you also have to work with it within your own personal self. Like, so we also have this war going on maybe within ourselves and with our evolution, and the timelines are splitting to where you can like actually literally not be on the same plane timeline as everybody else anymore if you're at a different frequency. So you can go with it like spiritually, astrophysically, or all this metaphysical way, but the 3D is going to play out anyway down here as the stars play out. This is wartime. Prepare. And it's already started. And just remember that it also means that there's a war within us and a war within you that we all have to deal with. I don't know.
Anything you wanted to add to that too? Okay. I think let's see. That Gypsy says which holy. You said I guess you had a question. Janina had a question for you. Said which holy war?
Well, many, right? But the Crusades. We're going back to biblical times. We had Julius Caesar take over the reign after the other JC, Jesus Christ, got assassinated. So one got to live, but then he got stabbed, right? But the other 12, it's all zodiac stories. So with the Holy War, with the Crusades, basically this was coming back to if you had the cities decided, and the king or the queen, the crown always decided what the rule was going to be. And especially with Constantine, the new Christianity was about to take over because they wanted to take over and decipher the new calendar. The calendars are either based off of sun, lunar, or both. And the Romans couldn't really like figure it out. They're kind of like, how about Saturday lasts like 2 days? And, so, and that's kind of, it was loosey-goosey. There's 8 days a week. But they eventually, they went to the experts like the Egyptians and the Celts that knew astrology, and they decided what the calendar should be. We have a calendar that's based off solar lunar. And a lot of the holidays clash because one is based off of lunar, one is based off of solar, and then a real calendar is based off a book. So what's my point with this? The Crusades. The Crusades was basically about the Roman Empire. They adopted a new calendar and a new religion where the Romans rewrote the Bible, and then they went out and they made sure that everybody, this is like, hey, this is the new philosophy, this is a new idea. And if anybody else went against it, they would basically be slaughtered or made to be converted. And so this is super important, where we have a turning point where we get to decide our future. We could fall down to this false matrix and this AI bullshit that is rewriting our history, rewriting our religion, rewriting how we think. Or we could take it upon ourselves and remember who we are and not let this AI is going to be the new religion, not let it take us over. We're like, nope, AI said this, you're wrong. That's where it's going to come down to. We're at the turning point. That's the new holy war. And thank you for asking that. That's the new holy war. It's not between if you're pagan. The pagans would be the ones in the rural areas, right? If you're in the city, you were the Democrats, you're liberal because you're in a blue city. And then everybody else around that city is Republican, red, or pagan. And I'm talking about old days, like even Robin Hood type of like stories, where if you didn't adapt to the new eras of the city and you're pagan and you're still like connected to the earth, they would slaughter you or prosecute you. And that's kind of like what's going on today. I live in Colorado. I live in rural Colorado. And like even the little ski towns and cities, they're super blue. And then anybody around them is super red because they either grow cows or grow weed or, you know, something like that. And it's still the same with that class differentiation. But the holy wars is happening right now because it's not about the religion as much more as AI is the new religion and the new God. It's a long rant. But yeah, I hope that answered your question.
All right. Let's see. I'm trying to see what other topics have which I wanted to go into, which I haven't touched yet. Oh, what's his name? Mark Wayne Mullen is running for office. Oh, not running for office, but he's up for nomination. I don't know if you guys are familiar with this story or not.
Mr. I'm gonna pop
Right?
my collar.
Yeah. You know,
He be trying to
okay.
fight people in the Senate.
Yeah.
That's
And
crazy.
it's funny. I kind of want to share this with you guys. What's his name? Rand Paul kind of went. How's that not three names? I don't know. Yeah, I guess that shows how. I mean, I guess that's a special level of country unlocked when you got a double first name, Mark Wayne. But yeah, I don't know how this dude is in office. Well, I do. It's Oklahoma. I mean, it makes perfect sense. Oh shoot, I shared the wrong one. Yeah, I didn't mean to share that one. Sorry. Hold on a second. Let me get it. Yeah, Mr. Mark Wayne. I just look at him as like, wow. I know for half of his people, he has to be a freaking embarrassed. Why does it keep switching on me? That's weird. That's why I did that. Okay, so here we go. And so this is Rand Paul asking him his stance on violence. This is a senator who stood up and was literally trying to have a fist fight and wanted to hop over the bench and fight somebody. He also, yeah, it's just hilarious. So we'll play a little bit of this and we'll talk on the other side.
In the days after the fight, you said, and I quote, sometimes people just need to be punched in the face. Is that still your opinion that political disputes can sometimes and often only be resolved by violence?
No, I don't always agree with that. I don't believe in political violence. I've made that very clear. But sometimes people do need, theoretically speaking, sir, I get it. It's about character assassination for you. That's the way this game is played. I understand it. And you are making this about you, which is fine, but that doesn't keep me as Secretary of Homeland Security.
Assassination when you were the one lauding the assault. Who do you think started that character assassination? I'm just repeating what you have done in character assassination. I'm repeating your support for the assault. So that's somehow something I started?
No, sir. What I'm saying is you're adding a lot to it.
In the days after the fight, you did many interviews in which you justified the violence as historically justified by precedents, such as caning and dueling. Is it today your opinion that the caning of Charles Sumner was not only justified, but argues still for resolving our political differences with violence?
What I was simply pointing out is some of the rules that still apply to this body. For instance, dueling with two consenting adults is still there. I was pointing out what is still
illegal for 170 years. There's no precedent for legal dueling. Even then, they fled the country. Do you realize that the man that beat Charles Sumner with a cane, he beat him till he was unconscious? You know why no senators intervened? Because his friend held a gun on the other senators, and he kept beating him until he crushed his skull. That's what you're insinuating is the precedent of the Senate, and that's what you live by. That is a very, very dangerous sentiment. After a half a dozen victory lap interviews where you pointed out that the union guy was just lucky that fear kept him from standing up, Dana Bash asked you if you have any regrets about bringing violence to a Senate committee, and you replied that you have no regrets. Today you've said you have no regrets about being happy, being completely understanding why I was attacked from behind. You had no regrets about, instigating a brawl in a Senate committee hearing. Are those still your opinions?
Mr. Chairman, you're going to have your opinion. I'm going to have mine. As Secretary of Homeland Security, I'm going to bring peace of mind and security to this country, and I'm going to stay laser focused on that.
Support journalism you trust. Support PBS News. Donate now, or even better, start a monthly contribution.
He's a bitch.
Yeah.
He's a bitch.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that he said what he said because, like, bro, you're not finna put my name in your motherfucking mouth and think shit sweet. Cause man.
And when he went into I remember when Rand Paul, sorry. I remember when he got attacked, but I didn't realize the severity of how bad the attack was. Like he has part of his lung missing now. I mean, he had like 6 broken ribs. The ribs were like separated and they were grinding against each other. He was having problem breathing. I mean, this dude was in like bad shape. Like he literally could have died from this attack. And this dude was like, yeah, I see why he attacked you.
Shit happens.
Well, and we don't see politics get like this in public either. And I've had like broken ribs. Oh, you can't breathe, you can't laugh. Oh my goodness, yeah. And Rand Paul might not be our favorite politician, but he's like at least up there. But we all love the other one, So Ron Paul, if they are associated with each other, like there's got to be some goodness there. But my goodness, right? Like it's like Gangs of New York. Like you deserved it. You have a different policy than I do. It's we're getting, like I said, we're getting rid of some grittiness. Like the holy worlds are back. The Middle Ages are back. It's a free for all right now. We have not a lot of protection as far as our government, and maybe we never did. Maybe we were coddled, but right now, like, by the way, we're on our own. We're on our own. Maybe I think it's liberating, but some people might be fearful of that. Like, yeah, the people that you think are in charge, they're never for your benefit. All governments are illegal. All, like, we have the 10 Commandments to shield us from the devil. We have our own Declaration of Independence to shield us from our own government. They're not on your side. They never were. I don't know where, and that's where that fourth turning comes in. Like all our, when this continent got retaken over, the aristocrats took over, and they sold children, and they programmed them from such a young age. They're the silent generation for a reason. They had no memory. They had nothing to say, and they could not say anything. And a lot of these places where they indoctrinated them, they had huge organs. And I mean, like, church organs. It was all about frequency. They started taking all this technology from Tartaria and using it and propagating this. So, like, when you see a person like Ron Paul that's trying to speak against anything and he gets beat the fuck up, we got some problems.
Yeah, my mind. Yeah, I feel like he's representing his district in Kentucky, and I don't always agree with him, but um, I do like the fact of hey, he's there to be able to say what he needs to say, and I don't think we should be in a system of. I mean, I don't think we should be in a system that devolves into you're supposed to be a leader and a representative, and that's how your behavior is. I mean, I don't agree with that. Now, and also he's going to be over DHS. I mean, so this is going to be the guy who's going to be over ICE agents, like
that are now over our airports because ICE is now taking over TSA.
Yeah.
So let's not forget that.
Yeah, get ready for more people to be killed by the government and protected.
Yeah. Right? So it's like even the most trusted politicians that we think we have, they're all bought and sold. Like they're all bought and sold. And TSA is another maritime law situation. As soon as you go through the threshold, you're on a ship. You're in a whole other time of law. Same with concerts. Do you know how many concerts I've gone to? I love live music. But at a young age, I had to see how it worked. Because I work backstage. I'm the one that like eats acid and goes to the front of it too. When you go through that threshold, you're in maritime law, and they have a different type of law, and they use this to their advantage every time. So even as like Rand Paul going, like he's this politician, maybe be in charge of that. Now he's entered a whole other threshold. He's entered another ship. He's on the ice ship now. We can't get him back. He's entered a whole new threshold where now he has to answer to different entities where he didn't have to do before when he was just like, Rand Paul's son and also just a senator and a dentist or something. Let me get that wrong. But you know what I mean? He's entered a new threshold, a new level of maritime law. Now we've lost him.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to. I guess take it for a second. I'm gonna try to find that video where he was going into detail talking about the attack. Because when I was hearing it, I was like, I heard the attack. I heard some of it, that he broke some ribs, but I didn't know the severity of it until like I heard him going in. So I'm gonna try to find that video real quick for you all. See. And that reminds me, if you guys haven't been checking out, Jesus Enrique Rosas, the body language guy, make sure to go check it out. He's just done a really interesting video about Steve Witkoff, and I think somebody else. But let's see, what was I looking for? Rand Paul attack. Okay, there we go. Attacked by his neighbor. Because the one in Congress, he's like literally in that meeting, he was like explaining to him. Where is it at? And this dude had felony convictions and all that, and just because he had headphones on when he was attacked. Let's see if I can find it. I think this might be it. Hold on. Let's see.
Morning. Through the years, I've personally been exposed multiple times to political violence. I was in the right field batting cage when the crazed shooter unleashed nearly 200 shots at our congressional baseball practice. I'll never forget Steve Scalise valiantly trying to drag his body away as the gunman continued. Later that year, a Trump-hating felon attacked me from behind in my yard. I was just straightening up from picking up a tree limb. I was wearing noise cancellation headphones. Never saw him coming. Running pell-mell down the hill. I was struck in the back. The force of the blow sent us through the air nearly 10 feet down the hill until his shoulder impaled me as we hit the ground. 6 of my ribs were broken. 3 of the ribs were completely separated, such that for weeks, the ends of the ribs would grind upon each other. My lung was damaged. For weeks, I could inhale, but not have the rib strength to exhale. I developed 2 pneumonias. The pain was such that I could only sit up in bed by tying a rope to the foot of the bed and pulling myself up. But even then, the pain was that of 1,000 knives. Over the year of recovery, I began to cough up blood. I underwent removal of part of my lung. Complications led to an infection in the space between my lung and chest wall. I spent a week in the hospital having the infection lavaged every 6 hours through a chest tube. Recently, Senator Mullen, if you have time to listen, you were confronted by constituents that were angry because you voted against my amendment to stop all funding for refugee welfare programs. Instead of explaining your vote to continue these welfare programs for refugees, you decided to transfer the blame. You told the media that I was a freaking snake and that you completely understood why I had been assaulted. I was shocked that you would justify and celebrate this violent assault that caused me so much pain and my family so much pain. I just wonder if someone who applauds violence against their political opponents is the right person to lead an agency that has struggled to accept limits to the proper use of force. You might argue you were mad and upset about being confronted by your constituents. But Senator Mullen, your constituents are justifiably upset with you. By now, most of America knows that the Somali welfare fraud in Minnesota stole over $9 billion. But instead of defending your vote, you took to continue the vote to continue these refugee welfare programs. You chose to lash out at me. You went on to brag that you'd already told me to my face that you completely understood and approved of the assault. Well, that's a lie. You got a chance today. You can either continue to lie or you can correct the record. You have never had the courage to look me in the eye and tell me that the assault was justified. So today you'll have your chance. Today I'll give you that chance to clear the record. Tell it to my face. If that's what you believe, tell it to me today. Tell the world why you believe I deserve to be assaulted from behind, have 6 ribs broken and a damaged lung. Tell me to my face why you think I deserved it. And while you're at it, explain to the American public why they should trust a man with anger issues to set the proper example for ICE and Border Patrol agents. Explain to the American public how a man who has...
I don't know how you have the nerve to even respond to that. I mean, it looks like he hadn't dead to right, so.
Oh yeah, well, and Rand Paul's gonna show up with facts. He's gonna show up with evidence.
I'm
yeah.
My mindset is, dude, just know you're not getting this nomination. Enjoy the fact that you are a senator and just hope that you can stay in office because you obviously don't deserve to be there. You're the type of person who clearly has no problem with abuse of power, and you'll only probably try this bully crap on people you think you can beat up.
Nowhere near Ron Paul. You're not Ron Paul. You're Rand.
I guarantee you that this Mark Wayne will not do this to every random person on the street. I guarantee you that, because this very man who tries to put across this machismo or think that he's so tough, when January 6th happened and they were kicking in stuff, you can find an image of him crouching down, hiding because he was scared. So it's easy to play tough guy with a short, overweight, balding man or bald man. It's easy to act tough against 50, 60 something year old senators. But do that with somebody who's more on your try it with somebody your own size and shape, basically. Try it with somebody who's around your own age. I would love to see that fight. But I know we won't see that because some people they're good with only picking fights where they can look tough. And it's the same thing with any of these like I honestly think some of these people have just never really been slapped in the face before, like really.
Not at all. Like not at all. Not Spain because yeah, not at all. I agree with you. Not at all.
I mean, I'm tired of bullies getting into power. I'm tired of grifters getting into power. I'm tired of the corrupt getting into power because now the system, the way this world is set up, it's going to be one of two ways. Either you're going to be controlled by some government or you're going to be controlled by some corporation. Um, and at least with the government, it used to be the saying that at least you have power to kind of influence that government. Corporations, you have no power, zero. Um, Especially now that we've completely obliterated any kind of form of unions to try to push back. Um, but let's say for instance we dispelled all of these power bases because of the might makes right approach that America has went on in this country, in the Western order in general. If we completely disbanded the military, I mean the military and the government as a whole, I give you about T minus 15 seconds before another country would be coming over here to try to take over and assert a new government over us. So at some point you got to either make do with what you have, try to commandeer the government that you have, or if it gets to the corporate powers, use your money to, affect change, learn effective boycotting of these things, and make them pay that way, or make them pay some other way. But I say personally, if it's up to me, try to find those means where you can operate outside of the system and outside of the system as much as possible. That's the only way where you really truly have power, because in this world that's formulated right now, power is might that makes right, and the more money you have, the more power you have, sadly, and the more influence you have. So the only other means that you have is if you can influence the masses in other ways outside of money. And I say speak to convictions. And if you can speak to convictions and you can amass enough people with influence and power, you can fight back against this power base of greed and money. And I mean, I guess I'll leave it at that. I mean, if y'all want to hop in and give your I don't know, give your thoughts.
Well, you know me, I always know, the United States is always a fucking bully.
Mm-hmm.
We always mind the business that don't pay us, and we can't leave well enough alone.
Right.
So, I mean, that's our MO. We fight. That's it. We fight. We just quick to pull the trigger. School
Mm-hmm.
shooters. You know how we do. So with that being
Ego
said,
based, maybe ego based.
it's always ego.
Because like the warrior, like the frontiers, the pioneers, and that's not a bad energy, really. But if you're stuck in that for generations, and it's that root chakra, that Aries Mars energy, like you're not going anywhere.
Yeah. Because my thing is, if the Mark Waynes of the world want to go to political violence, and that incentivizes everybody to start going to violence. And if you want to go that route, if you want to live in a society where it literally becomes the war of the jungle, and whoever's strong enough just takes whatever they want to take. Okay. I mean, I don't advocate for that, but I could see a possibility where we get to that stage once everything starts to fall apart. And it's like, would you rather your, the worst thing you're dealing with is, okay, you're struggling to pay rent, or you hate the fact of seeing people suffering, even if it's on a minimal level? Or do you want it to the point where it's going to be mass suffering and once you start getting into that war of the jungle and survival of the fittest type mentality, yeah, I'm just saying that it can go a very, very dark way, very, very fast. And I think that um, people don't understand the privilege of living in a modern society and so many things we don't have to worry about. I mean, we go back to a society like that and everything collapses. You could be looking at a situation where you get a bad cut and that's a death sentence because of infection and stuff. So you want to go to an uncivilized society? Hey, I got faith in powers outside of this. So I'm not going to be stressing which way we go either way. But some of y'all be careful what you wish for.
Well, and that is that mindset. The beehive mind is very, very powerful. So everybody thinks one way. It's dangerous. That's why the masses can be dangerous if they're persuaded in one way or not. But people like Teal, Marcus right here. Like you're already like, nope, I'm different. I'm gonna have my mindset. I should be influencing the beehive mind. I remember going to concerts, being really high on really good acid, and you tap into that beehive mind. I was able to influence it by just like throwing.
I try to influence the best I can because I realize a lot of people out there don't try to use their consciousness for critical thinking on their own, and they're going to be influenced by somebody. So.
And they need leaders, they need teachers, so you're doing a great deal where people they can't be the leader themselves yet. And so you're being the leader and you'll draw in the followers.
It's unfortunately we're always going to have society where it's a large portion of the society that is perfectly fine with being led, and they're going to be led, whether that is from somebody who is a passionate leader, a benevolent leader, a malevolent leader. It's going to happen one way or the other, and so at least try to get your thoughts and your views and your values into the world to be a counterbalance against the negative. That's all I can say. But yeah, that's all I have. I think I hit the main topics. That's right. I didn't really go much into Iran. I'll kind of sum things up and say my last little bit on it. We talked about Cuba, which I really hope that they're able to withstand this, and then with what I think is going on with Iran will kind of push for them to kind of have to put a pin in that and back off of Cuba for right now. But the only thing is, I think that they still can keep up enough forces to still give these poor people hell in the short term, and hopefully other countries will come to their aid to back the U.S. off of them. Hopefully we'll live in a world where they can have all sanctions repealed and be able to just live and comfort in their own sovereignty, and let that nation rise or fall at its own hands instead of us always messing with it. Let's see. I said Joe Ken. I think he'll kind of eventually become like a major truth teller down the road. So I say look for that. And with Trump making basically his little declaration of they have 48 hours to acquiesce, this is still a man who thinks that force on top of force on top of force, I'll finally get my way. I don't think it's going to work. I think it's going to. I've said before. I think that Iran is they're not hitting as hard as they could. Till can attest to this. Remember when I said that if it was me, I would have already hit Diego Garcia. That would be one of the bases that I would hit. I would have also taken out Bahrain. All of those bases would be completely obliterated, and they're not. They're damaged. They're hurt. They're not completely obliterated. And there's so many other ways where they could still affect massive casualties and pain. There's ways where they can attack Israel harder than they've been doing it. And I think if Trump keeps ratcheting it up and he goes through with his plans, I think we're going to see a new phase of the war that I don't think we've seen yet or that anybody's expecting. And I remember listening about a year ago or so with the Kim Iversons and talking about if we hit a World War III, oh, well, things will get a little more expensive, but that's the worst that we'll have to go through. No, 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 no. I'm going to get ahead of it and I'm going to say this in case you hear other content creators say something else. If it does get to a point of World War III, even before we have to deal with any like incoming attacks here, you're going to see a collapse that's going to start within this country. And it's going to start with it's obviously, of course, going to start with the gas prices and things, but it's also going to go to food prices rising. It's going to go to all kind of inflation in various areas, whether that's medicine, whether that's food, whether that's travel. Eventually you'll start to see more businesses start to collapse. As businesses start to collapse, you will start to see crime rates increase. And I guarantee you'll also start to see a large increase in violence within this country. So anybody thinking, oh, just because you haven't seen missiles coming over here, that, oh, we'll just have to deal with higher gas prices and that's it. Oh, I'll just ride a moped or I'll ride my bicycle. That's not going to get us out of the woods. We get most of our oil from Canada anyway. So that's not the reason why it would increase. It's because when it increases and the stock market start playing their games with barrel prices, the gouging will happen. And as the gouging goes on, that's what'll increase. It's not that we'll actually be out of it, but you'll start to see shipping issues worse than what was going on during the pandemic. And honestly, the pandemic might have been a test run for, some things to come from higher powers that be. But I say, for you all who are listening to the sound of my voice and who listen to us, make sure you start to prepare and plan. And what I mean by that is, if you are living in a city and you're not able to live off the grid where you have your own chickens and grains and growing plants and herbs and all of those different things, if you don't have the means to that, start planning. Get rice, get pastas, start setting things aside. Start canning and jarring different foods. Get seeds. If you have the means to start growing things, start doing it. But start planning. If you want to start taking money out so that when there's a run on the banks, you have cash in your pockets, start doing some of those things. Start prepping for a situation where we can see a partial, if not full, societal collapse. You just never know. I've always been a person who felt we'll see a post-apocalyptic type society within my lifetime. I've always thought that. Maybe I'm just weird or crazy, but I just think that it's something to always prepare for, because you never know when it hits the fan. And the last thing you want to be is, you don't want to be on the other side or be a victim when those things take place. You want to make sure that you're able to protect yourself, because there are going to be people who are not going to be prepared. And what they're going to do is they're coming after you to take what you got. So just keep that in mind. The Mark Wayne types who believe in violence, those people who think like him also, once their wife and their kids start suffering and start not having things, they go into New York cabinets and New York cupboards to take what you got. Just make sure you protect yourself. And I know we have plenty of people who listen to us who may be pacifists. Me, I'm the type, I'm ready to pacifist. But make sure you protect yourself, because I get some people might not be keen on violence, but you might need it to save your life or the loved ones around you. So make sure you do that. Make sure you take care of yourself. Beans, bullion, brass. Yeah, I have no problem. Those are good. Those are good 3 Bs, but make sure you just protect yourself. I say this stuff because I truly care about you all out there. And last thing I want to do is be seeing any of you guys being taken advantage of in what may come to pass. Now, if it doesn't and everything goes perfectly fine, and I'm just looked at as this overkill person who's just like overly trying to prepare for some apocalypse, which is never going to happen. I would rather be wrong. But I would rather be wrong than for me to be right and you guys are not prepared. So that's where I will end at. Till, Mariah, anything you'd like to plug or leave the people with before we get out of here?
First of all, this is amazing. I love Taylor Marcus, so thank you. This is a really good conversation. Enjoyed it so much. Otherwise than that, like everybody, it's the solstice. Or, I'm sorry, I keep saying the solstice because it's so warm. It's the equinox. Dear Lord, it's the equinox.
Yeah, for
so
me,
right
it's
now,
the New Year coming up too.
The sun has come to the point where we're right in between winter solstice and summer solstice. So this is a beautiful time to align with yourself, and just like this is where I think like Christ was born, Christ died on the cross, and it's a very magical time. No, this is really fun. Otherwise than that, I'm Mariah, Gypsy Mariah Headbangs, depending on where you find me. Poppy's Field Project podcast. We are part of the AM Wake Up channel. Steve and all his glory. And we talk about this type of same stuff, like with the cult knowledge, astrology, and what's going on. And this has been so much fun. So thank you, everybody, and have the blessed equinox weekend that you ever could have.
You can catch me on here with Marcus on Sundays. You can catch me on AM Wake Up on Mondays with Steve. And you can, which is on Rumble. And then you can catch me on Friday nights on Twitch, and we'll replay the episode on Rumble the following Monday, but on Baked and Bougie with my girl Davincia and Angel and Sin. And yeah, that's about everything. Catch me on Twitch when I'm playing my games and talking shit.
All right, yeah, that is it. I don't know. I might be going on some channels for interviews sometime soon. I'll try to put that information out as it comes. That said, hey, much love to everybody out there. And I think in another 48 hours, we'll see if things escalate massively or if Trump finds an off-ramp to kind of slow this party down. Not party, but you get what I'm saying. But yeah, much love and appreciation to everybody. Like I said at the beginning of the show, and like I'll say every show, you could have been anywhere else, but you were here with us, and we appreciate and love you guys all. Thank you. Hopefully you guys have a safe and blessed week. That said, this is the Political Matrix, and we out.
There is discrimination in this world, and slavery and slaughter and starvation. Governments repress their people. Millions are trapped in poverty, while the nation grows rich, and wealth is lavished on armaments everywhere. These are differing evils, but they are the common works of man. They reflect the imperfection of human justice, the inadequacy of human compassion, our lack of sensibility towards the suffering of our fellows. But we can perhaps remember, even if only for a time, those who live with us are our brothers, that they share with us the same short moment of life, that they seek as we do, nothing but the chance to live out their lives in purpose and happiness, winning what satisfaction and fulfillment they can.